welcome to episode 91 of Geeks Who Like Sports. As always, I am Ray Carcillo, joined by Tobin Spirit Guide, my best friend in the entire world over Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, Lee Elias. Lee, how are you doing today?
Oh, that just makes me wish Ghostbuster had come out last summer, and now we have no idea when it's coming out, but it'll probably be this summer in 2021. Ray, I'm doing really good today. I'm really excited for this episode. A lot of juicy, sink your teeth in topics today, which is really good. Really good.
Got a lot of good stuff to talk about. And also, I do hope Ghostbusters comes out before I join Tobin Spirit Guide.
I think that's very possible.
I am very, my patience is wearing thin, especially after, I need before we get to anything, my best friend Lee and his family and Caitlin, and Travis, and, we'll give them the shout-outs.
And the dogs and the kids, and the
dogs.
We signed,
all
of us signed that letter.
I know, I kept it, actually. They sent me a very kind, Christmas package, Hanukkah package, and so I want to. First of all, I'm wearing one of the things, which is my PAX Online 2020 shirt, which I very much appreciate having now. But of course, as you saw at the top of the episode, this is something I've wanted for a very long time. It's the Tobin Spirit Guide,
official Tobin Spirit.
Official, yes. Written by Dr. Ray Stantz, Dr. Egon Spengler, really written by Eric Burnham, who did the comic book run for IDW. For those of you who don't know, and this is going to be definitely something I'm gonna probably blow through this in the next 3 or 4 days.
So let me explain to you a little bit about everything that was in there. So
yeah, there's a lot of stuff. I got a lot of stuff. I'm going to show everything.
Well, this is what's funny about that entire package of things, Ray, is that the Tobin Spirit Guy, I probably bought that 6 months ago. All right, so a lot of this stuff we've been building up. And then what happened is we got close to the holidays, right? And keeping in mind, obviously, with COVID, we just didn't know we didn't even know what Ray would be over here. Right, then we got close to the holidays, and the Postal Service was so backed up. I'm like, I don't want to even risk this being lost. So we called Ray, like, look, we have a package of stuff for you, but we're going to send it after the holidays. And then even though we sent it after the holidays, it almost got lost again. It was in South Carolina, which is not on the way from Philadelphia to L.A. in any way. All right? I don't know how the postal system works, but that's south of here. It doesn't make sense. We loved it because the tracking went from my house to South Carolina, stayed there for like a week, and then, boom, suddenly Kramered up in L.A., right? Just giddy up, right? So it's there now. It's there now, and everything's in there.
Speaking of Kramer, and speaking of
there you go.
Seinfeld.
I didn't mean to do that, by the way, and that totally worked.
Yes. But for those of you who don't know this reference, it's when there's one episode where they think George has died, and George Steinbrenner goes and visits the Costanzas.
Right.
And instead of worrying about his son, Jerry, George's dad, is like, what the hell did you trade Jay Buhner for? He's gonna rocket him an arm! And of course, because the Jay Buhner trade was one of the worst trades the Yankees had made in the 90s. And it was a hysterical thing. It's one of my favorite episodes of Seinfeld. Of course, it's just one of my favorite moments. Of course, Jerry Stiller, one of the greatest comedians of all time.
God rest his soul. Ben Stiller's father, for those of you who don't know.
Yes, and it was just one of my favorite scenes. So I really appreciate that shirt. And speaking of the Yankees, I also got a Reggie Jackson.
Put it right in the middle. Put it right in the middle in front of the camera. Look at that, Mr. October. I couldn't resist on that one, Ray. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. That's, of course, Game 6 against the Dodgers in 1977, where Reggie, on 3 consecutive pitches, hit 3 home runs, getting him the nickname Mr. October. And
one of the greatest sports moments in history, whether you're a Yankees fan or not. It just is.
Yeah, it's one of the most dominant postseason performances by a player. And if you want to see how those look on me, be sure to tune into twitch.tv/Ray Carcillo, because I will be wearing those the next 2 days.
Another player that the Yankees harvested from the A's. Amazing.
Yes. And I also got a bunch of blade shades.
What are those? Look at that.
Folks, these are honestly, and obviously I'm kind of a plug.
That's okay.
But also,
That's okay.
It's also really fun because what you could do is you could actually take the arms off and interchange them.
You can.
With the glasses or the blue blockers or the sunglasses. And they also do prescription glasses now. So go to bladeshades.com to get yours today. Honestly, they look pretty good. These are the blue blockers. These are with the Anaheim Mighty Duck, not Ducks, the Anaheim Mighty Duck.
Well, actually, it's the Mighty Pro Series of Anaheim.
Oh, okay. My apologies.
We have to officially
the Los Angeles Philadelphia Mighty Pro Series
hockey team glasses.
Yeah.
Ray, I'm gonna be honest with you. You look a little bit like Buddy Holly in those.
I'll take it. I'll
And
take it. I
make
don't
it-
sound
it
anything
looks
like
good.
him, but I'll take
It looks
it.
good.
And then also from our producer
Yeah.
Caitlin, I also need to shout out. She got me this great cookbook. I really, really appreciate that. I can't wait to try out some of these recipes.
He will too.
I saw some
He
burgers.
will.
I saw some
Caitlin's
burgers
listening,
in here.
and he will use
I
that.
also saw some alcoholic drinks that I'll definitely try, especially as the postseason continues and hockey season gets started. But folks, we have a big show. It's not about product placement here today. It's Geeks Who Like Sports. It's a little bit about product placement, at least right now.
No, this is what I'll say about those. We are going to be doing some stuff with Blue Blocker lenses. If that's something you think you'd be interested in, let us know, right? Because the show is really about you at home. So let us know. Before Ray jumps into the show, I do want to give just a quick disclaimer for the episode on behalf of Ray and I, because we're socially aware of everything that's going on the planet, like the rest of you. So we wanted to let you know that we saw, obviously, and we've been following what's going on in our nation. We're not going to speak about it on the show because our show's purpose is to be a distraction from a lot of that. But we'd be remiss if we didn't say that we recognize it. We know that a lot of people are stressed out. There's a lot of discussion going on. And we didn't want to think that anyone thought that we were ignoring that and just jollily going on our way. So just quickly wanted to say that we know there's a lot going on out there. I hope that this show gives you some reprieve for a couple hours from all of that. Lord knows we all need a break from time to time. And I've always said this to Ray, and I've said it to myself. It's okay to mentally take a break for a couple hours. This show has been very healing for Ray and I for 91 episodes without saying it. I mean, it's been a bright spot for us through COVID. We've received some really kind messages from you at home as well.
Yes.
So that I just wanted to say, we know what's going on. We're not ignoring it. The purpose of our show is to allow you to escape that for a few hours. We hope we provide that for you. And with that, the show is so many great topics. The geek and sports gods just continue to bless us with just the juiciest stuff to talk about.
Yeah.
And we can't wait to talk about that. Ray, I'm going to toss the football 40 yards to you. Wait, and received.
Got it.
There we go.
I got it. All right. I made the catch, unlike Wims, the receiver for the Bears in the end zone. Anyway, but we'll get into that. We'll get into that later on. We got a lot of great stuff to talk about. We got, obviously, the NCAA championship was last night in football.
Yes.
We had Wildcard weekend. We got baseball trades. We got hockey.
Old quarterbacks in the next round. It's great.
Yeah, it's a lot going on. And actually, I just realized I'm going to move some things around in the.
That's fine. Yeah, Bill Belichick's in the rundown. I mean, we got a lot of stuff to talk about today.
We got a lot. Yeah.
Like
Tahoe.
Tahoe.
But there's a lot of geek stuff. Lake Tahoe. There's a lot of geek stuff as well. We've got more stuff on Cyberpunk, which will be a fun update. Lucasfilm Games is back. I can't wait to talk about that. But first, we got movie news. We got a lot of big movie news. We're gonna kick things off with the movies. Marvel Studios, Kevin Feige. Continues to, at least at this point, knock it out of the park, although I still wish they would release Black Widow already. They announced yesterday that, and again, we're recording on January 12th, so on January 11th, they announced that Deadpool 3 will be part of the MCU, and that it will be rated R. And this is huge for a lot of different reasons. I mean, the first thing that comes to mind for me is this how they bring mutants into the MCU? Is Deadpool, is his mission going to be just a whole fourth wall breaking adventure where he's like, I got to get the X-Men in here. And is that going to be it? Or how is Deadpool going to fit into all of this? And I am super excited. Ryan Reynolds is currently working on the script, which makes me also very confident that it's going to be solid. And yeah, Lee, I think this is the best news we've had in a little while for the MCU.
Finally, Deadpool has made a show in a legit way without winning a mashup or winning a question of the week. We were talking about him. He's made it.
Yeah,
he'd be proud. This is what I think, and I don't want to get my hopes up too much. I think that, like most of Deadpool's history in cinema and comic books, that he will merely be a commentary on the universe, where there may be an Easter egg at the end or something that has to do with the larger, greater MCU, but he's not going to take down the fourth wall. So I think this is just going to be a rated R comedy of him commentating on what's happened. I would love it. If his first movie within the MCU was just him running through what he was doing during the first four phases of the MCU. I think that would be great. It doesn't sacrifice anything in terms of like having him to forward the storyline. And like, let's just be honest. I can hear him right now. You might have been wondering what I was doing during all these movies. Well, after I got done with the Fox side of things, like I just could totally see him doing that.
Yeah.
That's what I'd want to see, is him run through everything of like where he was. Like, where was he during the snap? Did he exist during the snap? Right? Did he come out of the snap? That's what I want. Is I want that classic Ryan Reynolds social commentary of everything that was funny about phase 1 through 4, and then maybe an Easter egg at the end of just, well, this is what I'm doing now. You know what I mean? So like, he's not gonna not mention Wolverine. All right.
Yeah,
Keep in mind, this is gonna come out way after the Multiverse of Madness, probably. So there'll be something going on with that, explaining it away. But no, I think it's going to be funny and great. And I think that, and this speaks a lot to Ryan Reynolds and the producers of Deadpool, is that I don't think he's coming over to the MCU. I don't look at it that way. I think he's adopting the MCU to Deadpool. I think that's what he's doing, and I love that because that's the character. Yeah. I want to say this about Deadpool too, because I remember when Deadpool 1 came out. And I was actually surprised how many people didn't know who he was. And I was saying, like, well, I mean, he's basically Wolverine without the adamantium and funny.
Right.
I mean, that's what he is. That's what he is. I mean, and I remember my brother, who he had heard the name, but he didn't know what he is. I said, Alan, Deadpool is the funniest character in comics. And I said, Deadpool and Cable, which was a comic 15 years ago, was one of the funniest things I'd ever read. In fact, when they brought him into the second movie, I was like, man, these people really know what they're doing. All right.
Yeah.
And if you saw Deadpool 2, that was the highlight of his interactions with Cable.
Because Cable's basically the straight man of their comedy duo. And
right.
It's great.
Well,
it's absolutely fantastic.
Cable in comics in X-Men was so serious of a character for so long, which he was in the movie. And it was just genius that someone thought to put those two together. Not to mention, Cable has severe ties to the X-Men. Obviously, Scott Summers.
Right.
Right? I mean, I won't spoil that for any of you if you haven't read it, but there's their family. All right.
That's technically his. I'll spoil it. It's a 30-year-old storyline. Right. It's
fair.
his son from. It's his son from the future.
Right,
like
fair.
Cable is Cyclops' son from the future.
So I would love it if Deadpool ruined for Scarlet Witch and maybe even Quicksilver some way that Magneto's his dad, but they won't know who Magneto is. I think that would be so funny. Like, it must have been the other universe. Again,
very briefly, I do want to briefly mention, actually, it was also announced yesterday, Paul Bettany announced that there's going to be a character in WandaVision that we're not going to see coming. Could it be Deadpool? Or is it going to be somebody else? Could it be, I mean, there's so many options they could go with.
No, I don't think it'll be Deadpool. I think it's going to be Captain America. All right. And
that's fair.
If you want to, can we merge these in? Because we should talk about WandaVision actually for a bit. So we should announce this tomorrow night when you're watching this. If you're watching it on Thursday, Friday night, 8 p.m., Ray and I return to streamlounge.io, going a little more public with that. They're celebrating in my town with fire engines and fireworks right now. If you can hear that now that I'm saying that, the beauties of recording at home during a pandemic. Friday night, 8 p.m. moving forward. And now, for the first time ever, you can catch replays. So if you can't make it Friday night at 8, you can actually go back and watch our commentary. It's a ton of fun. Ray and I watch these things live. You get to see the video of us just like this. We interact with our audience. It's a lot of fun. So every Friday night, streamlounge.io, we're going to be watching WandaVision. And I'm excited about WandaVision. We are completely winging this in our rundown, Ray. I apologize. But we wanted to talk about really quickly WandaVision predictions. All right. And I want to talk about just what I think it's going to be. And you can tell me if you agree, disagree, or where you think it's going to go. What I'm hoping this is, now keeping in mind, every time I say that, Marvel does me one up and does better. But I'd be very interested to see what is going on with the Mind Stone, either during the snap or with Captain America having to return it. And I think that is going to be the character that we're not going to see coming, even though I'm saying that we're going to see it coming. I think that Wanda somehow, keeping in mind, Wanda's power is Infinity Stone level. Okay?
Yes. Her chaos magic, yes.
Right. I have a feeling that she somehow merged in with Vision and that what we're seeing is taking place in the Mind Stone. Okay? Which is not something that has not been alluded to. They showed that with Thanos, obviously, at the end of Infinity War. There was a deleted scene with Tony Stark at the end of Endgame. In the comic books, this is well known, okay? So I think she's in the Infinity Stone, and I have a feeling, and I would love this, if this show takes place during the snap, between the snap and when they come back. And this is how they're living together. And my hope is, and this is dark, my hope is that when Wanda reemerges and she gets out of the stone or something like that, that's when she appears in Endgames and goes, you took everything from me. I don't even know who you are. You will. I think that's how this show will either end or there'll be a culmination point in that. The reason I think that is twofold. That's how I would write it. And two, in the poster, she's wearing that outfit from Endgame. Yeah. Okay? So then there's the secondary storyline of Captain America has to return that stone to Vision somehow. So there's something there. Ray and I have also talked off the show that Marvel is known for their deception tactics, right? Yeah. There's a very good chance that everything we're seeing in the trailer happens very fast. It's actually not the bulk of the show.
Yeah, we were saying that basically everything that we've seen in terms of trailers, commercials, everything. And again, you also remember, folks, it's actually a 9-episode series, but it's over the course of 8 weeks. The first 2 episodes will air on Friday, which we didn't know about until very recently.
Right. It's exciting.
So it's a 9-episode season, but the first 2 episodes come out on Friday. I think that everything we've seen thus far is just the first 2 episodes.
I would hope so.
That's it.
That would be one.
Yeah.
The Mandalorian did that so well this last season.
Yes.
It's the same company. Yeah. The other thing I was going to say was we also know that Photon is going to be in this show.
Yeah.
Photon is the daughter of the other pilot. I can't remember her name right now. I think was it.
Yeah, in
Remy?
Captain Marvel. Yeah. Well, actually, people don't realize Photon was actually in the comics Ms. Marvel before Carol Danvers.
Right.
Captain Marvel, I should say. But yeah, she it's gonna be very interesting to see how she plays in, along with a few other characters.
So,
I can't think of her name. What's her face from Thor? Kat Dennings' character, Darcy.
Right.
Like, there's a lot of other little minor characters from the Marvel universe that are gonna be popping into this show.
So here's another prediction. All right, or a what if. Right. What if every character they're interacting with was snapped out of existence, and that's how they explain where everybody went. So if we're using that logic, a lot of people are going to show up. Falcon might show up.
Spider-Man!
Right. Think about this. How awesome would that be? Again, we have to remember, this is part of the MCU. It's not really a show. It's a 1-season, 9-episode movie. Okay?
Right.
So I expect to see a lot of these characters, but how cool would it be if in the Mind Stone, we get to see them exiting after the return, which I can't remember, the blip. That's what they call the return, is the blip.
Right, yeah.
Right? And then we see Doctor Strange telling Spider-Man, like you said in the movie, yo, we got to get over there. There's a big battle going on in New York. You know, like how cool would that be? I would love to see that. The other thing I was going to tell you is that, and you actually just reminded me of this earlier, they haven't released Black Widow yet. Okay? So what that tells me is that what happens in Black Widow is not affecting the larger MCU to come.
It's inconsequential, yeah.
Maybe. Or they believe that they can reverse engineer it and that you might realize something when watching Black Widow that might have been, you know what I mean, interchangeable.
Yeah, or whatever happens in it won't affect anything until later on.
Right.
It's not going to affect WandaVision at the very least.
But this is my prediction, is that this show is going to be Wanda and Vision getting out of the snap, getting out of being taken out of existence. Wanda disappeared in Infinity War, and the show will culminate with them getting out, fighting that battle, and then somehow Captain America returning the stone to Vision. Again, there's several question marks about how Cap returns the Infinity Stone. Some of them are very easy. The second weirdest one is him meeting Red Skull again. All right. But the number one is, well, if we're restoring timelines, Vision's been destroyed. So how are you returning that stone? And again, that whole scene is going to merge this next phase, I think, of the returning of the stone.
And something else I would like to see, it's possible, but I would love to see if also this somehow, because you don't want to just kill the Vision off. I mean, also the Vision obviously has been killed and brought back several times in comic book history. One time as a fully white android, like the ivory android. I think that would be interesting if almost like a ghost, not like a ghost, but like a shell of his former self kind of thing without the Mind Stone, and he kind of just has all the color just kind of wiped away from him if he somehow comes back later on, or when he gets rebuilt or something. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of different things you could do with this, and I think that's gonna be a lot of fun and a lot of very, very exciting to see.
I'll tell you this too, that Vision's an amazing character. Obviously interchangeable kind of with Martian Manhunter in DC. There's a lot of characters that go back and forth. That was a weird one.
Yeah, very similar.
I wonder if we will see the late Chadwick Boseman in this show. I think that's possible. It might be a chance to say goodbye to him. There's a lot of things that could happen. The other thing too is, when Wanda reemerges in the Endgame battle, she seems to show up later than everybody else. Yeah. Right? So it's like maybe she's holding on to say goodbye when everyone else is leaving. I mean, listen, I could be very wrong with all of this. All right. And if
we have no clue.
Right. If I am, I'll be totally probably fine with whatever they do. But if I'm right, I will lord this over Marvel for the rest of my life. Yeah. Okay. Just want that to be out there, okay? And if I'm wrong, please rib me. We love the interaction. Let's be honest. I'm a sucker for that stuff. But yes,
and
excellent.
Yeah, and honestly, again, this is going to be a one-off series. And I just want to quickly mention, they've already announced they're going to do a second series of Loki, which I think was also an interesting announcement they made this week, that they've already made plans to make a second season of that, even though that even hasn't been, the first one hasn't even aired yet. So this definitely does seem like a one-off that just kind of fits somewhere in the timeline.
For those of you who don't know about Tom Hiddleston, who plays Loki, he originally tried to be Thor. He auditioned for Thor, didn't get it, was devastated by that, got Loki, and has completely turned that into something for himself that he probably doesn't even care if he gets typecasted now for the rest of his life, because he loves to play Loki so much. Yeah, which means that deep down inside he is Loki.
That's very much reminds me of Cillian Murphy, who tried out to be Bruce Wayne in the Nolan trilogy, and then they're like, you know what, we're gonna make you the Scarecrow instead. And obviously he made an appearance in all the films because of it. Okay, and also very much enjoyed it. Unfortunately, that trilogy kind of went as it went on, but that's neither here nor there. But briefly, moving on, we mentioned Deadpool. Obviously, we mentioned the Fox years. Obviously, with X-Men, all that stuff. We mentioned Wolverine earlier. This was a fascinating story. Really, not even fascinating. Fascinating is going to get too much
it's
credit.
It's so bad we had to bring it up.
Right, that's exactly what it was. Is that supposedly there was the idea to have the Fantastic Four take on Wolverine and possibly the X-Men at one point, and they were going to have, and again, just to show you how much Fox did not understand the Fantastic Four at all. I mean, they went like this with X-Men, but they did not get Fantastic Four at all. But they were going to have, at one point, Reed Richards stretch his arms to the length of the size of a molecule, and we're going to insert them into Wolverine's shoulder blades and then explode it out and take his arms off and try and do like a Ultimate Hulk thing where he tore him in half. Like, what?
Right.
What? This, go to our page if you haven't seen the story, if you haven't seen the idea that they wanted Mr. Fantastic basically to rip Wolverine's arms off. What?
Right.
This is a terrible idea. I'm glad that Fox is no longer exists under the Disney umbrella now, because those guys were a bunch of morons.
Well, keeping in mind too that
why did you trade Jay Buhner?
This is Fox, which means that would have been Hugh Jackman too. So they were planning a Fantastic Four X-Men combination film, as Ray said, and their big reveal was at the end that Reed Richards would cut off Wolverine's arms. First off, if anyone's going to cut off Wolverine's arms, which has happened, it's not him. All right? Yeah. If you're going to break his claws, guess what? It's not Sabretooth. It was another character in the comics universe, and it wasn't them. I'll let you figure out who it was at home. All right? And it's adamantium claws, by the way. So anyway, horrible idea. We had to bring it up because there's so much chatter on there. But Ray, as you said, just unbelievably off topic and off. I don't know. There's no words to describe how bad Fox has done this. In fact, if you think about all the movies that Fox has done within the X-Men universe, there's been one common theme between the good movies. The good movies are X-Men 1, X-Men 2, X-Men Days of Future Past, and a lot of people didn't like it, but I didn't mind X-Men Apocalypse that much. The common theme of those films is they all have the same director. Yeah. Okay? And his name is escaping me right now.
Bryan Singer.
Thank you. All right? He did all of those films, and he did them well. Okay? He actually revived the franchise with Days of Future Past. Okay? Yeah. Keeping in mind, too, that these films, X-Men was the second comic book movie ever to come out after Spider-Man. Actually, no, it was the first. It was the first comic book movie to come out, and then Spider-Man came out.
Yeah.
So the X-Men
in
actually
what we now consider the modern comic book movie stuff, because I mean, and for Marvel,
technically, Blade would technically be the very, very first in terms of a business standpoint.
In terms of Marvel and Marvel Studios and things of that nature.
X-Men was the first true modern comic book movie.
Yeah.
That basically said, "Hey, this is realistic, and you can do this." Right for Marvel, DC was way ahead at one point on this.
Well, I mean, you had Superman in the '70s, Batman in the '80s and early '90s. Like, that's what I'm saying. So, like that and even that technically, I mean, you also had a really cruddy Captain America movie and a Nick Fury movie. Like Marvel tried years prior, and
David Hasselhoff.
It didn't work. Right? Yeah, exactly.
You heard that right. It was the Hoff.
Yeah. The Hoff was the original Nick Fury.
So this is all I'll say is that. They did a great job of introducing us to the modern comic book cinematic universes. Ended horrendously. Fox should never have been. I honestly don't know what creative directors were there thinking that was a good idea. It was horrible. Let's not spend too much time on it. Horrible idea. Happy the X-Men are over with Marvel, where they belong, where they will be treated correctly and fairly, thus bringing back the glory of the X-Men. By the way, for those of you who don't know, I don't know if we've ever said this, but Wolverine is by far my favorite comic book character, by far. I've always loved the X-Men, right? And I'm looking forward to seeing their next iteration because especially right now in the way the world is, they're going to be a really important way to speak through film because they've always stood for what is right through the darkness. I don't know how to say it. So there's a lot of darkness in X-Men. That's all I'll say. Yeah.
There's a lot. I mean, X-Men. Look, X-Men. I'll say it stems from it's a metaphor for the civil rights movement. That's what X-Men always was. It was always about Stan Lee was always very much a socially minded creator, and X-Men. I mean that's what X-Men was and always has been.
You can't see this at home or on the radio, but I have a Stan Lee action figure in my office because of what he stood for.
I have a Stan Lee mug. I have Stan.
He was ahead of his time.
I mean, look, we can do a whole episode on what Stan did that was revolutionary and forward thinking, from his stances on gun control to mental health, civil rights. Stan Lee was at the forefront of it, and he did it through comics, and he disguised, not disguised it, but he snuck in these messages through these stories, and it's I don't want to say snuck in. That doesn't, what I'm trying to say. He used his stories in a way to get these messages across in a way that didn't beat his audience over the head with the dead horse, right?
Right, and exactly.
So, you need something to definitely remember. But again, Stan the Man, rest in peace.
You'd be missed, man. I'm so glad he got to see phase 1 through 4.
Yes, no, for sure. I mean, and that's the thing is that. And so that's the thing is that there's a lot of darkness in the Marvel universe, but there's a reason for it. It's a reflection. It's a reflection of our universe, of our world.
Speaking of dark comic book universes.
Yes, exactly. We just briefly mentioned the Nolan Batmans, and of course, getting now into multiverse, and basically DC announced, and I don't know how I feel about this unless they go a certain way with it.
There's only one way to go. There's only
one way they can go with this, and they'd be, and again, I wouldn't put it past Warner Brothers to mess this up.
There's only one way to go.
They're talking about Michael Keaton as now being the main universe Batman for this DC multiverse. It's not Affleck. It's not nobody else. It's Keaton. And the thing is that obviously Keaton is older. He's late 60s now.
There's only one way to go with this.
You have to do Batman Beyond.
You have to do
after this. Right? After this multiverse movie, you have Michael Keaton retire, and you have to get somebody as Terry McGinnis. It's that simple.
It's that simple.
If they do it,
it's simple.
A great idea. Honestly, if they do it, it's a great idea.
Actually listen to the fans. Yes.
Yeah,
who've been
seriously.
Screaming
People
for
have
this.
been asking for this for years.
20
People have
years.
literally been giving Warner Brothers their best ideas for the past 15 years. They haven't listened to most of them, and that's why Warner Brothers is tanking.
Maybe they're listening now.
Hole.
Yeah.
But they have to like this is if you're announcing now that Michael Keaton is your main Batman. You have look. He's like 68 years old, guys. He can't be Batman anymore. He has to be.
He has to. There's
he
only
has to be
one
old man Bruce.
way you can go with it.
Yeah, he's got to be old man Bruce with Terry McGinnis in the future.
I'll make another prediction based off of something let's just assume for a moment DC will do this right. Let's just live in a world where DC makes good decisions.
That's
right.
pretty far-fetched.
Well,
okay.
This is what I'll say to you, Ray. I'm curious on your thoughts on this. The one thing that DC has always nailed in comics, I'm not talking on TV or anything else, but nailed in comics is their multiverse. With Crisis on Infinite Earths, Infinite Crisis, probably outside the death of Superman, probably the two biggest comic book events, maybe in history. All right? Mm-hmm. Right? Fair?
Yeah.
They're up there. They're in the top 5 for sure.
Yeah, I mean, we wouldn't have big comic book events like we do without Crisis on Infinite Earths.
That's what I'm trying to say. So they created it, they originated it, they nailed it twice, which is hard to do because Infinite Crisis was really good. All right, that's the more recent iteration of Crisis, all right. If they follow their instincts on those, they get the right people involved, they could pull something like that off here, and it would work. Okay, which means that, as Ray just said, we might even see Christopher Reeves again. There's a lot of ways this could work. Okay.
Yeah, through full CGI.
If you're gonna bring back Keaton, now Keaton has been very, very vocal for years. He hasn't returned to playing Batman, even though he keeps saying he's Batman, because there hasn't been a good Batman script.
Yeah.
Okay, and then obviously most of the modern Batman movies, they don't call for a late 50s, early 60s actor. Right?
Right.
So he must have seen a script that he liked, number one. He must have seen a pathway for it to allow him to exit the role finally with the closure he wants.
Mm.
And with that said, there's only one storyline you can do. Don't stray away from it, DC. Don't mutilate it. Don't try and tease us with it. Just do it. Batman Beyond, which is arguably the second greatest animated Batman series of all time. Some would say it's the best.
Yeah, I would disagree that it's the best, but it's definitely up there.
I'm just saying some would say that. I'm not saying
Well, they're wrong.
Yeah, Batman the Animated Series is the best, okay?
Yes.
But Batman Beyond is I mean, it might have
up there because it's a continuation of that universe.
It might have have just been the same show. Keeping in mind, Ray, I don't know if you've heard this or not. Batman the Animated Series may be coming back with new episodes on HBO Max.
Oh, please.
All right. I read a report on that the other day that they are really considering bringing that back.
Please.
Right.
Well, because this is the thing. So here, little behind the curtain. DC, the reason why most DC animated shows only last 3 to 4 seasons is because DC doesn't think its audience would follow a cartoon longer than that, especially its younger audience. So the idea is to constantly reboot these cartoons. That's why you literally had a new Batman cartoon every, and some of them obviously didn't lurk. You had the Batman that was only one season. You had another Batman around when there was, I think it was called The Batman as well. When it's Beware the Batman. Beware the Batman was the one season one. The Batman was, I think, 4 or 5 seasons that came out during the Nolan trilogy. The reason why they keep rebooting these characters in cartoons over and over and over again is because they don't think their audience will stay with them. The thing is the reason why Batman the Animated Series was so great was that it was such a mature themed show that still found a way to appeal to children. That if DC got out of its own way, they would have realized that fans would have continued to grow with that show as it went on. So if it's about, and this is why still guys like our age are still clamoring, we'll just bring back Batman the Animated Series because you got it right the first time. And that's the problem with, again, DC gets so much in their own head, and there's so many people there who don't know what the heck they're doing. Most of them have probably been fired now, and rightfully so. I mean, I hate that people lost their jobs, but when you're bad at your job, you should probably be fired. They probably, they probably are starting to finally wake up and realize, we had something good going here. Maybe we should bring back, Paul Dini and all these other guys and write more episodes.
Here's where I'm going to get you really excited. Can you imagine if they brought that back and were conscious that we'd be watching it, and they made it even more edgy than it was, right? I don't know how they would do it, but there are. You can look this up. There are serious talks about them bringing that back to HBO because the original series is on HBO right now, so it's going to be really interesting. And then again, Batman and Superman was a really great show. I really enjoyed that. Justice League was a really great show. I mean, these were all great iterations.
George Newbern.
Right, these were great. I mean, so I'm looking forward to that. And again, with Keaton, I mean, we've talked about Keaton playing Batman. We're all excited about it. But I got to say this. There's only one way to go. I do not think – I hope I'm wrong. I do not think I could be convinced there's another way to go with that character. All right? It's got to be Batman Beyond. And again, people want it. We're asking for it. I think they're listening. I actually do think they're listening for a change.
Yeah, there's been a huge leadership shakeup at DC, and I
Right.
think it's been needed for several years. And I think that I'm hopeful. I'm cautiously optimistic.
Stay to your comic roots. When you
Yep.
keep to the comic roots, and we always say it, ride the wave of canon, you will succeed.
Yep.
Every movie that has strayed away heavily from canon has sucked. X-Men 3, Spider-Man 3. Every DC movie since Batman.
Yeah.
I mean, to be fair, Batman 89 was not canon, but it was much closer to the aura of
you know what it was? It was a time also where it wasn't canon, but it borrowed elements from things that were canon.
Heavily.
Right? Like you had original Batman, you had Frank Miller's Batman.
Right, exactly.
You had...
It was dark Batman.
You had Killing Joke, right? Like, so the thing is, it wasn't canon, but it took a lot of elements from things that were.
Right.
And I think that's why it was okay and that it still stayed true to the character.
By keeping in mind, too, that it's also the first dark universe superhero movie ever made. So, I mean, it's not fair to compare 89 anything to the standards of today, which we're not trying to do. But we're just saying, stay close to the canon and you will succeed. No matter how crazy you think that canon is. I'll give you an example. Multiverse.
Yeah.
Which apparently we're all adopting now.
Yeah. Well, it's popular idea. Quantum Theory actually found out there might be actually a multiverse, but we're not going to get into that.
I'm sure there's another show called Sports Fans Who Like Geeks. Starring us, and I host that mainly. And welcome everybody to another show of Sports Fans Who Like Geeks. You know what? I'm not going to continue this storyline. It's not canon.
Yeah, no, it's not canon. You know what is actually well, I guess I'll go with it. You know what is canon, sort of? There used to be a thing called.
Committed. I love it, right?
Yeah. Way back in the day, there used to be LucasArts.
LucasArts, a staple of my childhood. Staple of my childhood in gaming.
Yes. Before that, people don't realize their first few games were published under a brand called Lucasfilm Games.
Amazing.
Originally, it was Lucasfilm Games, and then it became LucasArts as I hit my microphone, as the technology advanced and the studio got bigger, and obviously became
for our younger listeners, LucasArts in the 90s made the best games by far.
Yes.
In fact, none of us can forget that little rectangle L-shaped logo with the sprightly
with Lucas, or I think George Lucas holding like that rainbow kind of thing.
I will tell you all that in the 90s, no one made better games, especially on PC, than LucasArts. Yeah. I mean, there's so many of them, and they were so great. And it wasn't limited to just Star Wars.
Star Wars, yeah.
All right, so I had to say that again because this is not a modern brand anymore, technically.
Right. Well, I mean, so they're kind of in a way harkening back to their roots with Lucasfilm Games. It's been announced by Disney. They are bringing that back as a kind of an umbrella. EA and a lot of the people they still have licensing deals with, they're going to still make the games, but now Lucasfilm Games is going to make sure that these games are up to a certain quality.
Dank Ferrick.
Yeah, exactly. So you'll see that there'll be kind of like almost like an oversight committee kind of making sure that like when EA does something that, I mean, obviously they knocked it out of the park with Fallen Order, but the troubles with Battlefront were obviously very well documented, as well, a couple other games. And then Squadrons was decent, but this is basically Disney's way to kind of be like, probably shouldn't have gotten rid of this brand in the first place. We're gonna bring it back a bit. We're gonna bring it back. We're gonna have some of our own team. Not gonna be doing a lot of development, not a lot on the publishing side, but they're gonna be basically overseeing everything and making sure that if it's got the Lucasfilm Games seal of approval, that means it's gonna probably be pretty good and hold itself up to a higher standard, so we don't get Battlefront or Battlefront 2 again. The remakes, not the originals.
Right. So. It's funny about Battlefront 2. I've been playing Battlefront 2, and I'm not gonna talk about the multiplayer aspect of it because I think that's actually pretty good. The story
they've done a lot of work to fix that, which is great credit to them. So
and I've got Game Pass, so everything is unlocked. I've been playing the story, and it's okay. I don't want to really knock it. It's just okay, but you can see how Fallen Order borrowed and fixed everything that was wrong with the story in Battlefront 2. Yeah. The other thing too is that Fallen Order was phenomenal, Ray, as you said. With Star Wars having so many new properties, I can see why they want to have Lucasfilm Games now overseeing it because they have a home run, a grand slam with what they're doing with Mandalorian and what they're probably about to do with that universe. So I can see why they'd want to have some overseeing power over whatever's being put out now, because it's too delicate of a property. They did put out a little sizzle reel that was great, which is basically all the games that are already out with Star Wars on them. And just let us know, hey, look, we're back. And everything will be okay again.
I mean, I've heard rumors of everything from Knights of the Old Republic remakes to obviously things at the High Republic, and a whole lot of other stuff. But yeah, I mean, this will be the guys who will be in charge of talking to developers and making sure the license is properly utilized, and who knows, bring stuff back like Monkey Island. Who knows what else they can bring back?
It's a great game. Again, it's a welcomed announcement. And I do like that Disney / Lucasfilm Games. I got to start saying that now. I do like that there's some consciousness here of, look, we need to protect these properties better than we have been doing. You know, we had some hits and we had some misses, and we need to keep having hits because, you know, not to get off topic here, but to show everyone how much Star Wars really means and how much they're starting to get it. All right. Yeah. Obviously, if you haven't seen Mandalorian Season 2, this is a spoiler alert, but with Luke Skywalker coming back, Mark Hamill at the end of that show, if you have not watched some of these reaction videos of what that meant to people, go do that. But, Ray, this is the step up. Mark Hamill put out a message basically thanking everyone involved in that show for allowing him to do that. And he said he was crying watching people react to that scene. And he said this. He had forgotten how much he wanted to play that version of Luke. He had forgotten how much that version of Luke meant to people. If you guys remember when Last Jedi came out, he was like, I don't really know if I like where Luke's going here, right? Yeah. And he kind of recoiled.
He was very vocal about not really agreeing with Rian Johnson's direction.
Right. And he did kind of come back on that later on. He was like, all right, let's see where we're going now. I don't know if they told him to do or not, but go look up his reaction to this, because he said, I forgot how much it meant to people, and I forgot what it meant to be that character. And he said, like, thank you for this gift. Mark Hamill said that. If that doesn't tell you that there's some understanding now over at Disney, thank you, Jon Favreau and Fellini, that this can coexist with children and adults, which is the big mistake that they always make. And again, what happens is everybody at home is these 70-year-old execs, 60-year-old execs, or even younger than that, just think, well, it's for kids, it's for money, and we got to do this. And, it's like gaming, right? We've said this before. Ray and I are approaching our 40s. We're still going to play video games. There's plenty of people in their 40s that do, okay? We got to rid ourselves.
That's all I do is play video games.
That's not all you do. You have a podcast, too. We got to rid ourselves of this, mid-80s, all they'll melt your brain mentality. Yes, there are unhealthy habits like anything else. If you do it too much, it's bad for you. Yeah. But, again, it's like Star Wars. If you do too much to it, it can be bad for us. Yeah. Just do what you're doing. Anyway, I'm very happy to hear this.
Well, again, I mean, I've worked in enough corporate gigs to know that, typically half the people who work there don't know what they're doing, or don't have. I should say they don't have the passion. They don't have the passion. I would say I'm being conservative. I'm being conservative with my half and half. Right. Look, but a lot of folks who typically work at these big corporations, whether it's Disney or DC or wherever, they don't have the passion of true fans. They look at it as a job. They come in, they punch in at 9 o'clock, they sign off on a bunch of stuff that they think will make the company money, and that'll keep their paychecks coming. Right. And they don't have. This isn't their life like it is for us. Look, Ray, and unfortunately, that's just the way it is.
I'll tell you this. I don't want to mention it by name, but I worked at a place that, should hockey have a league in the nation, I worked at that place for several years. And I love my work. I really did. But there were people in there that didn't even like hockey. They didn't even like hockey. Why are you working there if you don't like hockey? I didn't understand.
Same thing at DC.
Right. I didn't understand. DC. It was all... should I use the word disrespectful to the game? Disrespectful to comics. You have assets out there that love and have a passion for what you're doing. As a business owner, find those people. Yeah. Find those people. Well, that's it. I don't know why you wouldn't. Actually, I'm sorry. Wait, Ray. I'm sorry. I'm cutting you off. I'm sorry. If you do it right, this is the truth. If you do it right, those people will find you, and you won't even have to go looking for them. All right. Yeah. So, sorry, I cut you off for that, but I thought it was important to say.
No, it's true, and I think that's part of the reason why I think you saw DC recently fire a third of their staff. I'm sure a lot of those folks needed to go because they were too
culture
big.
Change,
and sometimes
man.
that happens. Yeah.
Yeah, we don't root for anybody to lose their job, but culture change.
Yeah, exactly. You see it in sports, you see it in games, you see it in comics. But speaking about doing things the right way,
right?
CD Projekt Red, who did not do things the right way with Cyberpunk 2077. Of course, we've well documented all the glitches, the bugs, and that person I just did not like.
I can't
the game.
stay out of the news.
Now the basically the equivalent of, I guess, the Poland Better Business Bureau. It's a government branch that basically kind of is like an oversight to make sure that quality products are being put out there. Have threatened CD Projekt Red that if their next series of patches are not up to snuff to fix the game properly, they will be fined up to 10% of last year's profits as a studio, which is a lot of money, by the way, because, again, Cyberpunk still sold 13 million units even after all the returns.
Right. And this is in Poland, I'm sure.
This is in Poland. Yes, right. This is in Poland. This is the Poland government looking to crack down on what they felt could have been bad business practices by CD Projekt Red.
Right.
So I think this is a very big deal that they've done such a poor job and that they basically, possibly rob their consumers in the eyes of the government.
Right.
The government is coming in and possibly levying fines for the fact that they did such a bad job, and again that they might have had some shady business dealings in terms of rushing this game out. So that is not what CD Projekt Red wanted to be in the news about again for Cyberpunk.
Well, hey, let's take a step back here. A far more appropriate, thought out, and thoughtful response than just taking the game off the store. Right?
Yeah.
It's like, hey, we're going to give you a chance to fix the game. We understand it's a crazy time. Your next patches better fix your game. I just think that's a much better way of handling this than like, oh, if we don't like it.
We still think Sony way overreacted on this.
Right. I do. And again, I haven't played it, full disclosure, but I haven't played it because Ray and my other friend Casey, who's been on the show, has told me not to play it.
Don't.
Right? And that's that's not the first time someone in gaming has said, hey, don't play this game.
Yeah.
All right. So it's not unheard of. But yeah, look, I think it's an appropriate response. And look, I'll be honest with you, kind of an optimistic approacher. I'm interested to see what Projekt Red does. I really am, because you've said this before. They can redeem themselves. I'm interested to see if they can fix this game, because
the comeback story.
Yeah, that will redeem them in my eyes if they do something right here. Again, made a lot of mistakes. Should never have been backwards compatible ever. All right, but
no, they shouldn't have put it out for PS4, Xbox One.
I just think that was a selfish, stupid move. But let's see what they do.
Yeah, we'll see if they can bounce back. This is gonna be a big thing for them, because there's a lot of good people at that company. And again, like you said, COVID this last year, folks, it is hard. I'm gonna tell you now, seeing things on the other side, it is hard to make games during this time right now. Right, there are some studios, there are some people who can do it, but it is very hard to coordinate, especially for a project the size of Cyberpunk, that many moving pieces remotely. It's not easy.
Right.
Not making excuses, but it's not easy. And they should have. I mean, again, honestly, they should have just delayed the game another 6 months.
I was just going to comment on that, Ray. That it's funny because you and I have written about this too. That hopefully look, if no one learns anything from this, that's the real loss, right? Games come and go, but hopefully the entire gaming industry, and some of them won't, but hopefully they take note of, hey, listen, don't rush it out, don't crunch like this, get it right, just get it right before you put it out. There's no way there's just no way they put that out without knowing that it was not ready to go. It's like a TV show. Someone in that office was like, it's not ready. And someone still said, push the green button, and they did.
Yes.
All right. What's funny is that they had earned some clout from me in, the start of Q4. They put out that really professional note that says, look, the game's not ready yet. We're going to fix it, and we're going to put it out when it's ready. Yeah. And then they didn't do that. You know what I mean? They should have said it's not ready, period. We're going to miss the holiday sales, but we promise you that you're going to have the best game you've ever played after the holidays. Guess what? People still would have bought it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and that's the sad thing is that a lot of this was driven by the fact that they had to hit their fiscal year. For those of you who don't know, most fiscal years in video games, I think, end in March. So they wanted to hit this fiscal year, have that full runway of the holiday season and all that. And it really just feels like this was a money-driven decision. And I get that. You need to pay people, and people need to put food on their table and all that. But, They needed 6 more months.
But-
They needed 6 more months.
If I may talk, I do like to talk about expertise on this show. I had a product in one of my companies that was not going to be ready for the holidays. And when we found out, it was very disappointing. I'm not going to lie to you. It was extremely disappointing because we know we're going to lose some revenue because of that. Okay.
Right.
But here's the thing. We kind of accepted it, swallowed it, understood it's not going to happen. It would be lucky if it did. And get this, Ray. We made other plans to acknowledge that, to help the company survive, and then to eventually launch it in a way that would be conducive to the company. And get this, we did it. All right. Yeah. So and again, look, I'm not Projekt Red, and I don't have literally billions of dollars riding on the things that I do, to be fair to them. But like I said, we just acknowledged it. It wasn't ready, and we will not, we have standards at my company, pretty high standards. We're not going to ever sacrifice our standards just for a payday. All right. Yeah. Because if we do it right, the paydays will come. All right. If we do it right. All right. That's just my stance. Again, I got to say this again. It's easy to say that for me as a small to medium-sized business. I don't want to try and compare myself with a multi-billion-dollar corporation. But it just sounds like they never swallowed that pill. It's like it's got to be out. And then some selfish person at the top put it out. And I get their logic too. But was it worth it? Was it worth it? Now, and again, if they can spin this negative PR, by the way, if they can spin it, it will have been worth it. But that's a tall order. I mean, you've alienated a whole country. A whole country doesn't want you to succeed. Poland. Poland. Last time I heard Poland in the news was World War II, was something like this. Yeah. All right. Now they're talking about Projekt Red. It's amazing.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's like Miyamoto says, we paraphrase here, is that a delayed game is temporary, a bad game is forever, and even with modern day, technology, where you'll be able to patch it. This cloud is going to hang over Cyberpunk for a long time. There's going to be a lot of people who will probably never try it now because of all of the negative press. Not everyone, or they'll have to wait for it to be a deal. And they probably lost more money than they would have made overall had they just delayed it 6 months. So hopefully this is the last we hear from CD Projekt Red until maybe they will do a story when they fix the game and everybody's happy. But needed to mention that's a big deal that the Polish government is now getting involved.
It's a whole country. Country got involved.
So that is a big deal. Other big deal, sad news we memorialize folks here on the show sometimes. We had 2 very big passings this week, one in games, one in sports. For the game one, this was really a shock to a lot of folks because Jonas Neubauer, who is basically the father of modern competitive Tetris, he won 8 out of the 10 national Tetris championships that originally held in LA, now held in Portland, Oregon. Has defended this title many times, although it hasn't been in the tournament the last couple of years. He passed at the very young age of 39. Right. We do not know how, but our condolences to him and to his family. Again, if you're at all involved in the competitive scene, a lot of games have competitive scenes at this point, including obviously classic Tetris. By the way, this is Tetris for the NES. This is what it used to be run on. It was an NES version of Tetris. And 8-time champion. He had the gold Tetrino blocks. He had them all in his he lined up. I remember one time in his room, the picture was amazing. Basically, he almost built a Tetris wall of his Tetris trophies.
That would have been amazing.
Taken far too soon was Jonas. So we very, very sad to hear that. Also this week, one of the greatest baseball men of all time, Tommy Lasorda. He lived a great life. He lived a great baseball life. Actually, the reverse of Jonas, 93.
It's weird.
Instead of 39.
Yeah. It's weird that we're talking about it with Tetris, and I mentioned that
it just kind of fit like that. But Tommy Lasorda, of course, won 2 World Series with the Dodgers. His first, of course, beating the Yankees in 81, and I think it was 88, which was the Kirk Gibson team that beat the Athletics. Just a great ambassador to baseball, was a huge proponent of the World Baseball Classic, and just absolutely loved the game, and one of the game's best characters, and something the game desperately needs again is a character like Tommy Lasorda,
right?
I think, and
I remember his legendary battles with the Philadelphia Fanatic. A wonderful video of Tommy Lasorda, one of the few people that actually defeated the Fanatic on his home turf, literally beat him. But it's actually, it was funny.
He hated the Fanatic.
Well, it's funny. It's funny. An article came out about that they were actually great friends. So the person that was in the Fanatic during those time periods, apparently him and Lasorda really got along. And some of that stuff was planned. I'll just say it that way.
Of course.
But I don't want to take away the illusion. But legendary just battles with the Fanatic, and they were actually really great friends. It was kind of a cool story from Philadelphia because that's how we remember Lasorda here is beating up the Fanatic. Again, not many people can do that.
It's like Peter Griffin versus the Chicken.
Well, let me ask you this, Ray. Who wins in a fight, Gritty or the Fanatic? That's not as easy as you think.
I think Gritty.
You think
I think
that,
Gritty.
Fanatic's been around a long time. He's got a lot of tricks.
Yeah,
I can run over Gritty with his 4x4. You never know.
I mean, can the 4x4 go on ice?
Listen, the point is that neither one would win. It would just end up going forever because they are both the greatest mascots in all of sports. Philadelphia has two of the greatest mascots in all of sports.
That is fair. Well, speaking of hockey, again, very, very sad about those passings. But speaking of hockey and moving on now to the World Juniors. The USA, he's happy he's got his hockey stick for those of you who can't see. The US beat Canada 2-0, really stunned them. I mean, basically Canada's roster is made up of nothing but number one first round draft picks. I think it's like 19 first round draft picks on the Canadian roster.
It was one of the greatest on paper Canadian junior rosters of all time. I'll put it that way.
Like that's
saying that the US. To be fair to them,
then the US shut them out. By the way, I think both goaltenders are Florida Panthers.
They are
prospects.
both. Knight is a Florida Panthers prospect, the winning goalie, and yes, these were NHL rosters. I don't know how else to say it.
Yeah,
these were young NHL rosters.
Yeah, these guys are going to all make the NHL one day, but yeah, the U.S. came out victorious. This is the 5th U.S. gold medal, and it needs to be said, before 2010. Canada dominated the World Juniors and especially dominated the U.S. But since then, and Lee, you've mentioned this before, that the U.S. basically really they changed up their program.
Right.
The U.S. is basically virtually the same as Canada
3-3.
Over the last 10 years in terms of head-to-head record, in terms of gold medals, in terms of all that. So that's a really big deal that the U.S. hockey has really committed to. Basically getting to the same level as the Canadians, which is for a long time has been considered the best program in the world. And so, USA.
Yeah, right. Well, here's the thing, just to briefly go over this, is that, in 2010, the USA Hockey fully adopted what they called their development model, okay? And what happened is that they had been toying with it, but they really changed how they were teaching hockey in the United States in 2010, which was very different than the way I was trained. When I was growing up, Canada always beat the United States. We always came in second or third, didn't make it at all. So that's where a lot of this, fake animosity for Canada comes in. As you said, since 2010, the development model, we are equal to Canada in many ways now in hockey. Many ways, okay? And Canada hates hearing that, but it's the truth. All right? So, and I got to say this too. It was a wonderful game. Canada, undefeated. Check this out, Ray. Never was trailing in a game before that game, the entire tournament. Yeah. USA lost their first game, and as we see in so many of these tournaments in every sport, you lose a game and you kind of think, it just kind of sets your boundaries a little bit. You understand where you are, and, you can lose. Yes. You're not invincible.
Wakes you up. Yeah.
Right. Canada came into that game a little bit invincible, and they played like it. And the USA was just relentless in their pursuit to win the game. I don't want to take anything away from Canada. It was a super team. They were a good team. The USA just came out top. It was a great hockey game overall. You're on the edge of your seat the whole game. And, yeah, they win the gold. Now, I do have to say this, and I want to make this point. So if you have Canadians listening to the show, or if anybody wants to chime in on this, the Canadians always come back to us winning another World Junior Gold. Yeah, well, win one in the Olympics. Win one in the Olympics. And this is my comeback to that. You're comparing, World Juniors has been going on for decades, right? Yeah. NHL players could play in the Olympics from 1998 till 2016, all right?
Yeah.
Yes, I believe that to be correct, all right? In fact, no, they didn't even play in 18. 18 was the last Olympics, and that wasn't an NHL player. So I believe 14 was the last, okay? So that's only 5 Olympics, right? And Canada, you only won 2 of them. Shut up. All right, shut up. They're NHL rosters. And don't get me wrong, those are gold medals legit. But if you're really going to compare the Olympics, the one that matters, that's every 4 years, to the one that takes place every year, give me a break. That'd be like me saying that the Dodgers won the World Series, right? And a Yankee fan going, well, you didn't win the World Baseball Classic.
Yeah.
Like, it's not comparable. It's not comparable, all right?
Yeah.
Again, very big deal that you won gold in the Olympics. I'm not taking away from that, but they're not.
Yes.
They're not the same thing. This tournament happens
Yeah.
every year. In 10 years, USA and Canada have 6 of the 10 gold medals.
Yeah.
We are now even. Accept it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and that's the thing too, and also, Canada likes to talk a lot of trash about the Olympics. But remember, I still think the Soviets have the most hockey gold medals.
Yes, they are the best Olympic team of all time. And if I'm not mistaken, Ray, the USA has 2 gold medals as well in the Olympics.
Yeah, without NHL rosters.
Right.
So Canada needs to shut up.
Yeah, you do. Right.
Go drink some maple syrup or something and get out of here.
I will end this on a high note to say that every single Canadian that I know, in true Canadian fashion, congratulated me after the USA won. They've been nothing but gracious in their defeat. But because there's always a but with these things, after 24 hours, I was getting it's not the same because that's a really horrible Canadian accent. It'd probably be more like,
it's not the same, eh? I mean, we used to get all the gold medals, and we've still got 15 overall, don't you know?
We got those Olympic medals, and you don't have any of them. All right, but we do. And I'm just like, America. And they're like, look at your country. I'm like, we're not talking about that right now. Don't you go there, Canada.
A whole different story. We're not getting into that.
That's a low blow, you son of a maple syrup.
Yeah. Anyway, speaking about things changing and that out with the old, in with the new, Mike Milbury is off the NBC broadcast team. We kind of saw this coming after the comments he made last season. This isn't the first time that Milbury's opened his mouth and inserted his foot. He's out. But what I'm excited about is that a couple former Rangers are going to likely take his place. Ryan Callahan and Dominic Moore are going to be added to the broadcast team, they said. And also Mike Babcock, former coach. Not of the Rangers, but just former coach in general, is going to be on the team as well. And I think that all of those guys are huge upgrades over Mike Milbury, who sucks.
Right. So Mike Milbury, for those who don't watch hockey, is basically the announcer. I don't want to say you love to hate. He's the announcer that everybody hates because he gives unpopular opinions and they're very strong-willed. And like most people from his generation, made an off comment about women that some people say wasn't that bad. Some people say was really bad. The point was it was inappropriate no matter how you slice it. And Jeremy Roenick did the same thing. And I'm sorry, it's 2021. If you're not aware of that standard, I can't help you, no matter what you think. Again, it doesn't even matter if you take a side or not. No matter what you think, you can't say things like that anymore, and that's the new standard. And I'm okay with that standard. I have a daughter. I have a wife. They're very powerful people. Yep. I don't want them to be belittled. So Mike Milbury had a great career as a player, had a pretty good career as a broadcaster, and that's over now, and we're moving on to higher pastures.
And that's it.
Broader pastures. Nicer pastures. New pastures.
Speaking of nicer pastures and different locations, and we're going to go into Lake Tahoe in February.
Wait, I got my stick again.
Not literally, at least not me. Lee might go. Lake Tahoe. Getting into our NHL overview, the season starts as we're recording this. The season starts tomorrow. 5 games on the opening night docket.
I'm so ready for hockey to be back.
I believe it's Penguins versus Flyers are kicking things off.
3
so that
games,
should be a good
first game of the
divisional
season. Flyer Penguins, 5 p.m. Eastern on NBC Sports.
Yeah, so there you
Game's
go.
Already happened, so hopefully we won.
We'll see what happens. But the Lake Tahoe games, we're going to start off with that. That's very interesting. They're playing 2 outdoor games: Flyers, Bruins, and Avalanche, Golden Knights, on the frozen pond of Lake Tahoe. And Ali and I were talking about this very briefly yesterday, because even though I know it's February, and I know it's Lake Tahoe, and it's up upstate New York, what if, considering all the things with climate change, the ice isn't frozen come end of February?
I will tell you exactly what's going to happen. ESPN will have the best hockey coverage they've had in over 20 years. That's what they will be all over that. To let you know what's going on. It's not going to happen. They wouldn't go on Lake Tahoe if it wasn't there. There'll be a foot of ice on that lake and pond, and probably some other things. What I'm more interested to hear about with Lake Tahoe is they've never played on a lake. So everybody's like, oh, they've done that. No. Stadium Series games and Winter Classics are played on other stadium fields, right?
Yeah.
This is the first time they're legit playing on a pond or lake. Okay, so there's got to be boards. There's got to be a lot of things. I mean, obviously they did a stress test. They wouldn't be doing this if they didn't go out. I mean, you'd hope they wouldn't do this if they hadn't gone out there yet, right? But they're going to have to build an NHL arena with boards. It would be hilarious if they didn't. But, they're going to have to build a rink out there. Which, by the way, Ray, they have built rinks on that lake many times. Not to the NHL standard, but just pond hockey lakes. So, they're going to have to find a way to put boards there and anchor them in the ice unless they're planning something we don't know about. Very, very interesting. Zambonis, lines. I don't know. What they're going to do, but it's something new. And what I really want to speak about with this is we have been preaching about innovating and finding new ways to do things and interesting topics in sports of just try something new. The NHL continues to lead the way as a professional sports league, no matter how big or small it is compared to the other ones, that tries new things for the benefit of the sport and their fans. Also want to say real quick, Gary Bettman yesterday quoted, the league will be losing billions of dollars this year. And I agree with him. That's not a sob story. We have been saying this on this show for months. These sports leagues are not making money by running their seasons. They're not. They are losing money in droves. The NHL, still knowing that, is going to do an outdoor game for their fans. And I really do believe Gary Bettman when he says they're doing this because it's good for the sport and it's good for the fans. It's also very good for the brand, right? Nothing wrong with that. Anybody's got a problem with that. Nothing wrong with that. All right? I mean, people are complaining about the weirdest things this year, Ray. I've had people complaining about there's advertisements on the helmets.
And the sponsorship of the divisions, I've heard.
That's another huge one. It doesn't look right. Like, guys, they need to make money somehow. What are you complaining about?
They got to offset the
NBA's been
losses.
doing this for a few years, elegantly, I might add. Right?
Yes.
Like, there's nothing wrong with this.
It's the only way soccer operates is with ads all over their jerseys and stuff. Right.
I don't know why this is such a big deal to people. I mean, and again, with what Gary Bettman said yesterday, whatever it takes, man, they could go European with this and have ads everywhere, all over the jerseys this season. As long as hockey continues, I'm going to be happy. By the way, NHL, don't do that. But you know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know what the big deal is. They're losing money. They're losing a lot of money. A lot. Yeah. In fact, Ray, I would not be surprised when COVID ends. I think it's very possible, unlikely, but very possible, you might have to see a few teams move. Right? Is this what kills the Coyotes? Did the Florida Panthers have to leave after this? I don't know, and I'm not wishing for that. Okay, but I'm saying, some of these lower revenue teams, they might struggle. Right? Yeah. So I just wanted to say that. And then, if I may, really quickly, I don't want to take too much time on this. I know we've spoken briefly about the NHL coming up. I do want to acknowledge, because the last time we spoke about the divisions, we weren't sure. The way they're running the season this year, it's actually really exciting. So this is one of those years, by the way, if you have been kind of teetering about getting into hockey, this is going to be a really fun year to get into, because there's 4 divisions, East, Central, West, and North. The highlighted division is the North Division, which is all 7 Canadian teams. Yep. That's going to be a lot of fun. So every game in the North Division is Hockey Night in Canada, basically. Yep. And if you haven't seen 2 Canadian teams play each other, it's like a divisional game in football. Anyone can win. It's gonna be great. Obviously, it's gonna see some other things happen. Detroit and Chicago are suddenly back in the same division again. I don't know. I don't know if they're running Eastern Western Conference this year, but obviously they're gonna have to put 2 divisions in 2 different things. But technically, this puts Chicago in the Eastern Conference if they're looking at it like that. And then the other highlighted conference is the East, which is just every team except for one, which we'll talk about in a minute, is good. I mean, Boston, Buffalo, the Islanders, the Rangers, Philadelphia, Pittsburgh, and Washington, any one of those teams could be in the playoffs and in the Cup final. I was
going to say make a playoff run, really, yeah.
And the team that I left out, the team that has no goaltending after the retirement of Corey Crawford, who's a great goalie, won 2 Stanley Cups with Chicago, God bless you in your retirement, is the New Jersey Devils. And I'm going to say this again. Ray, you've known me a long time. You've known me a long time. I'm not a divisive person, and I don't hold grudges, except for the Devils, because their fans made my life hell for 20 years.
Even more than the Ranger fans.
Way more. I've always had a dislike for the Devils. And obviously, I'm jesting a bit here. I have a lot of respect for the Devils organization. But
I don't.
I know you don't. But the Devils organization has done a lot for me. But in terms of fandom, your time has come. I predicted this. You need to sit on the back bench for a while and watch the other teams play. Yeah. All the talk for years. I'm not going to lie to you. I'm not wishing for you to lose, but I'm not wishing for you to win either. So anyway, the NHL division's looking really good. And obviously the Seattle Kraken will round out the 32 teams after this season. But looking forward to the NHL season coming up. Let us know who your team is, who you like, what you want to watch. Also, speaking of StreamLounge.io, Ray and I will be doing live hockey on StreamLounge.io from time to time coming up.
Yes.
We will get you more details as they emerge, but that should be coming shortly.
Yes. We're working out the kinks as we speak. And then once that happens, you can basically, instead of watching Wednesday night hockey with whoever they get to do play-by-play
Geeks
on NBC, now that Doc Emmerich has retired, I think it's going to be Kenny Albert. I actually like Kenny a lot, actually, as a broadcaster. But me and Lee are better. Well, and you can listen to us on StreamLounge.io.
Geeks who like hockey. And I just realized, Ray, it has been 8 years since you and I, 8 or 9 years since you have actually broadcasted a live game before.
I think it's been longer than that.
You're right. It's been over 10 years. I apologize.
Yeah.
It's been 11 or 12 years.
Yes,
since we've done a live hockey
11
game.
or 12
I had
years,
a lot of hair back then, and you did too.
Well, yeah, I mean, mine's starting to come back now.
You did too. Transitioning. Your hair looks great. It's coming in perfectly. You look really good.
Yeah, I'm very happy how it's coming in, actually. A little more silver than I would prefer, but, it is what it is.
Just love it. Just love that your hair's growing back.
Moving on. So that does it for hockey this week. Now moving on to football. We're going to kick things off with the NCAA championship. No surprise to anyone that Alabama absolutely ran roughshod. They destroyed Clemson, and then they destroyed Ohio State.
Yeah.
Ohio State, yes.
Destroyed them. It wasn't even a close game.
They weren't the ones that beat Clemson. They beat Notre Dame. Alabama destroyed Notre Dame.
Yes.
Ohio State destroyed Clemson.
You were going backwards in your mind there. Yeah, I got you.
Right, yes. And then, of course, last night, Alabama beat
they destroyed. They destroyed Ohio. It wasn't a game.
Yeah. It's... a lot of folks were worried if Ohio State even belonged there, only playing half a season this year because of COVID. They only played 7 games if you count the playoff game against Clemson, whereas Alabama played 12, including the playoff game against Notre Dame. And I don't think that really mattered. I think what really mattered was the fact that Ohio State had a lot of injuries very early in the game, that including their running back, which I think really kind of set them back and behind the 8 ball. They fought hard for the first half. But then Alabama, that machine is just too strong, and they ended up picking them apart by the end of it. 52-24 was the final.
Records were broken in the first half. I mean, if you really take a step back here, I mean, this is one of those in retrospect. It's obvious. You have the greatest coach in college history. You have a very dominant Alabama team, one that was poised to win in a season where they played twice as many games as the team they were playing in the last game. I know there's the any given Sunday approach, but that really is more the NFL. In college sports, it's a little less that way. And it should be no surprise. Incredibly dominant Alabama team wins another championship, thus only growing on the lore of Nick Saban as the greatest college coach in history, which he is, obviously.
Yeah, this is his 7th title, I think.
Right, and he said,
with Alabama.
Right. He's won one with LSU too, I believe, right?
Yeah.
So, when you look at Nick Saban, actually, he had said too, a quote I read this morning that this is one of the toughest seasons he's ever had to coach. When you look at everything they were dealing with COVID, he had COVID at one point. They managed to just plow through and win another national championship. And look, Alabama is the strongest college football team in history. There's just no doubt about it. I mean, there's no way around that. And
I think at this point they're even better than the early, I think the 50 and 60 Notre Dames and Army teams and all those that used to dominate. Now it's just. It's insane. It's insane. Yeah. So, again, national championship games for me just never seem to play out as a great football game. It's not like the Super Bowl or the NFL playoffs. This game was over by halftime.
Right. So, but that's NCAA football for you. And I will say this just to get out of it. I'm looking forward to next season where there's a little bit more of a normal playoff, a little bit of a normal season. Hopefully, I should say. Where
and especially a lot of these guys will obviously get drafted into the NFL,
right?
But from both these teams,
right?
And we know that's coming, and it's going to be interesting to see a lot of the turnover. I don't think.
So sorry, real classy moment. I'm sorry, Ray. Real classy moment where Alabama put in their injured center, the last couple plays of the game, who I believe is a senior. And he twisted his knee pretty bad in a game against Florida earlier in the season. And Nick Saban, this shows you a lot about Nick Saban, throws him in for the last play just so he can get in the national championship game. And all of his teammates were hugging him and holding him and stuff. It's cool to see. Sorry, but like those are the storylines I look for in those types of games.
Yeah, no, for sure. That's exactly. I mean, again, from every team in the playoff, Clemson. I mean, Trevor Lawrence will be gone. I think Ian Book will be gone from Notre Dame. He'll be drafted. I'm going to guess in the second or third round. I do not think he'll be among the first crop of quarterbacks, but he will be drafted. You're going to see all four of these teams look very different next year.
Right.
Alabama, though, amazing at recruiting, will probably still be very strong. Ohio State and Notre Dame and Clemson, not so sure. But that's
Clemson will not be unlikely anywhere.
Unlikely. But we'll see what happens.
Unless they miraculously find a quarterback at that level. Which happens in college sports.
It happens, exactly. they have the whole country to recruit
Look at Jalen Hurts and Tua Tagovailoa, whose name I love to say, by the way, now.
Exactly, yeah. So, speaking of that, actually moving on into now football, pro football, a lot of trade rumors. Speaking of Tua, Tua's circulating. Deshaun Watson wants out of Houston. Kind of very common now that a lot of quarterbacks want out of their current cities. Wentz obviously still, although now that you fired Peterson.
That's not there anymore. Yeah. We can talk about that if you want. I have lots to say about that. I didn't think we were going to
I mean, we'll get into that. But Watson looking for trades. Supposedly the Vikings will trade Cousins for him. Miami talking about trading Tua for him. I've heard Seattle trading Wilson for him. I've heard all kinds of craziness. I'm gonna be honest. I don't think that's gonna happen at all. I think if Watson goes anywhere, he's going to a team without a quarterback already for draft picks and whatnot. But I think honestly, especially with new GM coming in and a new coach, I think that Houston can probably make a case to keep Watson around for at least another year or two. But and then of course speaking of that, Wentz. Doug Peterson got fired yesterday in kind of a surprise move, but not
a mutual
that
parting. That's how it was labeled. So, again, I rewind back and go through time here. So you got to go back to what we talked about a couple weeks ago. Eagles' last game of the season. Very weird things happened. It looked like on the surface they threw the game. We don't really actually know what happened, so forth and so on. Did not look good on the organization. Several players seemed to be very miffed and upset. Again, I'm not in the locker room, so I don't know. Then there was a meeting between Peterson and Jeff Lurie, the owner of the Eagles. And in that meeting, it sounded like things, okay, we're just moving forward. And then it came out shortly after that there's going to be another meeting. And after this meeting, the future of the Eagles will be decided. That meeting took place. Obviously, the press, I give the Eagles credit for this. The press release said that both parties decided to mutually part ways. The press has been reporting that he's fired, which is not unheard of. But I would not be surprised if there was actually a mutual agreement there. Or they're just doing the right thing, and our Super Bowl coach is getting a fair send off. These are my thoughts on this. I do think that this came down to Carson Wentz and Doug Peterson. What I don't know is what caused the riff in the locker room. All right, and it's very easy to assume things, but I honestly don't know. I don't know if Howie Roseman or Jeff Lurie called down to Peterson that game and said throw the game, and he did what he was told. I don't know if Peterson did that on his own. I've said this before. I don't know if Doug Peterson was just a good guy and told Nate Sudfeld, hey, I'm going to put you in with 10 minutes no matter what the score, and he did it. I don't know. I'll never know. We'll never find out. All I know is that the Eagles culture has been bent and probably broken a bit.
Yeah.
And I have seen this situation play out before. If Jeff Lurie, the owner of the Eagles, did not feel that Doug Peterson could mend the bond or mend the connection between the players, and we have some important pieces in Philadelphia, and Doug Peterson's the one that had to go. And it was probably Peterson or Wentz.
Yep.
And let's be honest, Wentz's value is pretty low right now on the depth chart. So I have said this repeatedly, and Ray will back me up on that I have never got on the trade or get rid of Wentz train. I'm not against Jalen Hurts at all, but I think Carson Wentz is a very capable quarterback, and I think he's been missing certain pieces. I think he's been playing well below par as well, but I'm not ready to move on him yet. Doesn't mean the Eagles won't trade him.
Right.
So, but there needed to be a culture change, and let's just be honest. I know we have some Eagles fans that listen to this. Look, Doug Peterson, it's a pretty natural life cycle for a coach.
Yeah.
He was here for 5 years, won a Super Bowl, lost the locker room, and he's moving on, and he'll coach somewhere else. I just hope it's not the Jets. But like I said, I refuse as an Eagles fan to hold any animosity towards him or Carson Wentz having won the Super Bowl with them. They will always have a place, a good place. I will remember the good times. I read his book. I enjoyed it. right? There's a great statue of Doug Peterson and Nick Foles at Lincoln Financial Field, which now both of them aren't here. That's what happens in sports. And new chapter for the Eagles. I'd be lying if I didn't say I was a little excited because now we can move on from all this controversy. We'll get a new coach in here. We have a pretty high-ass draft pick, right?
Yep, 6 overall. Yep.
I'd be dumb with the way the NFC East looks. I'd be dumb not to be a little bit excited.
Yeah.
Right? About the Eagles right now. So, it's just, again, guys, I step back. I take this more from an organizational coaching standpoint. This happens all the time. It happens all the time. And it's pretty much following the right line, stream of consciousness here, right? The locker room's broken. You need a new leader. You're going to get a new leader, right? And we'll see who's the quarterback next year. I can't tell you that right now.
Yeah, no, it's going to be an interesting competition in training camp, that's for sure. But Peterson finished, even with this bad year, finished with a winning record in his time in Philadelphia.
Right.
I think he was 38, 27-1 or something like that. Like, he was well over 500.
Right. Look, I will say this too, that, and this is the only kind, not anti-Peterson, but like the Eagles should have won the division this year on paper. They should have been easily the division winners. Something happened and they underperformed like crazy. But we were
a lot of
far
injuries
better.
too, like every team in the NFL.
Right. I'm just saying. Look. On paper, again, it's never one of base things. We were far superior to any of the other NFC East teams this year coming into the season.
Coming into the season, you were the most complete team.
And we drastically underperformed, and that is fireable. By any standard. So that's how you have to look at it. And again, this was Peterson's kind of free year, in my opinion. Remember, like last year, we underperformed a bit too. And we kind of snuck in the playoffs, and it was good. But this was the freebie. He deserves a freebie. This was the freebie. All right. So yeah. Look, I really wish. I really mean this. I really wish Doug Peterson the best wherever he ends up. He will absolutely have a job next year somewhere. Yeah. And we'll see who the new Eagles coach is probably in the next couple of weeks. Probably,
especially as teams get eliminated from the playoffs. More coaches are starting to get interviewed. The offensive coordinator for the Titans has started his interview carousel.
What if the Eagles can get Belichek?
I don't think that's going to happen. I don't think he's going.
Just you wait. That's not going to happen. That's not.
Speaking of great coaches, I want to quickly put this out there. What's interesting is Coors Light is doing a campaign to get Tom Flores inducted into the Hall of Fame. For those of you who don't know, Tom Flores was the first Latino NFL player. He was the first NFL, or at least quarterback for sure. He won a Super Bowl as a player as the backup to Len Dawson in Super Bowl 4. He also was the guy who took over for John. He won Super Bowl 11, I believe, as John Madden's assistant coach, and then took over when Madden retired, and then led the Raiders to 2 more Super Bowls, 15 and 18. And so he's won, I believe, 4 Super Bowls in his life, 1 as a player, 3 as a coach. He's not going to get in as a player. His stats aren't there. But as a coach, why isn't this guy in the Hall of Fame?
Right.
I think Coors Light actually has a really good point here, that this is one of the winningest coaches in NFL history who has 3 rings. Again, 1 as an assistant, 2 as the head coach. Again, broke barriers as the first Latino man, and also the first man to win a Super Bowl as a player, an assistant coach, and a head coach. Second was Mike Ditka, but Ditka's coaching Super Bowl obviously didn't come until 5 years
also
after.
in the Hall of Fame. So
yes, he was also in the Hall of Fame. And I don't know, I just want to put it out there. Why the heck isn't Tom Flores in the Hall of Fame?
Hey, look, we're living in a time period where brands are doing a lot of social awareness campaigns. This is one of the better ones. This is one of the better ones. You know what I mean? And again, you can chalk it up. Oh, they're just trying to make sales, sell beer. Corey's trying to sell beer. No, they got a pretty good case here, and I don't care who leads the charge, right? It's the right thing to do. Ray, I'm with you. Why is this guy not in the Hall of Fame?
Yeah. I also get Coors Light. I get the idea, like his nickname was the Iceman, and so I get the tie into ice cold beer. I get it, but like
this is a great advertisement. Look. Yeah. I don't have a problem with good marketing, right? Yeah. And what I'm saying is this is a little bit of both. Like, this is good marketing, all right? It's a good message. It works. It's a good cause. Good for you. Like I equate this to Bud Light. Yeah. When they did Philly in 18. So like remember for the rest of the nation it was Dilly Dilly, right? Yeah. Maybe people don't know this, but what they did with the local ads in Philadelphia, they changed it to Philly. Right? Yeah. And if you remember, now this was a gift from the football gods to Bud Light, but the Philly special call play was Philly. right?
Yeah.
So think about it, what did Bud Light do? Brilliant. They built a statue at Lincoln Financial Field of that play call. And it is an iconic call in Eagles history, and it's a real statue. A lot of people said, well, they're going to take it out. No, it's a legit statue at the link.
Yeah.
Okay? And it's got Bud Light on it, and no one cares.
Yeah.
Good marketing.
Yeah,
all right?
exactly.
All right? Now, I'm not going to say that his Hall of Fame induction statue should have Coors Light on it.
Right.
That would be a bit much. All right? But it's the same idea. It's a great cause, great idea. Let's do it.
Yeah. No, I'm all for it, I think, for sure. It just makes a lot of sense. Now, speaking of quarterbacks and speaking of the playoffs this week, we had first ever Super Wildcard weekend, 6 wildcard games.
It was enjoyable. It was great. It was great.
There was some good football. There was some weird football. But a lot.
There was no bad football though. I'll put it that way.
Yes.
It worked.
I made my predictions on Twitter and Facebook. I went 3-3. There was some, obviously I got some right, I got some wrong.
That's thus proving any given Sunday.
Yes.
Exactly proving that.
Yeah, you had two up. You had two, the one upset I picked didn't happen, and there were 2 other upsets, so I ended up going 3-3.
And to fair, the upsets that did happen that you were wrong on, nobody would have picked the teams to win.
Well, I mean, that's the thing. So the ones I was wrong on was the Rams went into Seattle and beat the Seahawks senseless. 30-20 was the final. But that touchdown at the end there for the Seahawks was kind of just a stat patter. I mean, the Rams defense, look, they are legit. We'll see how healthy Aaron Donald is now going into Green Bay. He busted his ribs that game. But the Seahawks, I don't know if it's partially play calling. I would say it's partially play calling. It's partially Russell Wilson. He held onto the ball far too long. The Rams did the same thing that the Seahawks, the Giants did, which is just they got pressure with the defensive line. They made Wilson scramble. Wilson could not get out of the pocket and make the plays that he usually likes to make. Some bad plays, also some by the Seahawks receivers. Also, Metcalf was a bit of a diva, and that, again, in an empty stadium, when you're barking on the sideline, get me the ball, people are going to hear you. And don't think that Jalen Ramsey on the other side for the Rams, who loves to get in receivers' heads, wasn't like eating it up. He was like, I got him. And Metcalf had one big play, and that was it, and it wasn't enough.
What's funny about this game is, like, 4 weeks ago, I was talking about Sean McVay possibly getting fired.
Yeah,
well, I don't think that's going to happen anymore.
To be fair, the Rams are still a Jekyll and Hyde team.
Right.
Wolford got hurt, the quarterback who was in there for Goff. Goff was playing with a busted thumb. Goff still does not look right. He hasn't looked well the last few weeks of the season, even before the injury. I don't know if this is a Rams team that can go much further than what they've done with the way their roster is currently put together. But they're going to have to ride. If they're going to beat Green Bay, they have to ride their defense.
Right. I'll just say this. Like, watch out for them as that proverbial underdog, that if they believe enough, they can sneak out some wins here.
Yes. And it'll be interesting to see, though, what they do up in Green Bay. The other NFC games, the Saints destroyed the Bears 21-9. Again, a pointless touchdown at the end of the game. The Saints defense held the Bears in check the entire game. Jimmy Graham, which could be his last play of his career, caught the touchdown with no time left to make it 21-9 and literally just ran off the field, and that was it. The Saints-Bears game was also the Nickelodeon game, so if you watched it on Nickelodeon, you had virtual slime cannons, you had SpongeBob in between the field goal posts, and you had some really fun commentary from Nate Burleson. I think it's Nate Eagle, who's Ian Eagle's son, and I don't remember the girl. She's on a Nickelodeon show. I don't know who she is because I'm a 35-year-old dude and I don't watch Nickelodeon anymore. But they had fun. And it seemed to be fun. They had little young Sheldon explaining the penalties to kids. I know I have little cousins, my cousin's kids, basically, back home, who were mad that Paw Patrol wasn't on. But, I think it was a good effort by the NFL to try something new as the Saints steamrolled the Bears.
As we talk about innovation, this was something innovative. I'm looking forward to see what kind of the outcome is of this, if it was just a one-time thing or if they'll continue to do it. But I got to give the NFL credit for trying something new. And Drew Brees doing what Drew Brees does. You know what I mean?
Yes.
So
yeah, no, for sure. And credit to the Bears defense because they held the high-powered Saints offense to 21 points. Again, Khalil Mack, that defense of Chicago is still very stout, but they have a lot of question marks on offense. Them too. They have a QB controversy. It doesn't look like Foles or Trubisky is the answer. So it's going to be interesting to see what Chicago does this year in the draft.
I love Foles. I'm a fan of Foles.
Yeah, I know you're a fan of Foles, but he's
big
not what he
fan.
once was.
Big
Best,
fan
best,
of
great
Foles.
backup. Great backup.
I don't need him to play. I just want you to know I'm a fan of him.
Yeah, I know.
Forever.
I know. You're a big fan. But the other NFC game we also need to quickly mention is that Tampa Bay will now go and face New Orleans for the third time this year, an NFC South matchup, after they relatively easily handled, I shouldn't say easily, handled Washington, who made a valiant effort at a comeback late. Taylor Heineke, who was the Razorhawks backup in the XFL. He was also he also was a starter in the was he in the AAF or was that Wolford? I'm mixing them up. All these backups that are getting starts here in the playoffs. Actually, it was Wolford who was the AAF. That's right. It was Wolford in the AAF. Heineke, who has kind of been on the QB scrap heap, showed that maybe he's the future in Washington. They let go of Haskins, Alex Smith. Who knows how long he's going to continue to play for, and who knows how Kyle Allen comes back from his broken ankle. Taylor Heineke made a case now in 2 games this year as to why maybe he should. He's obviously going to still be on the roster. But why maybe he should be the starter in Washington? Because he did pretty well with a undermanned and clearly overpowered Washington team. Obviously, Tampa Bay's the better team on paper, and it just they made it close.
The story of Heineke is incredible to me, and I'm going to run through it real quick. So, graduates college, is a backup in the XFL.
Yeah.
Didn't really work out there. Didn't get any calls from NFL teams after the XFL ended. Figures, okay, my career's probably coming to a close. Let me start, focusing on real life a little bit. This is what he said. Starts going for an engineering degree. Doing really well in school. Gets a call from the Redskins. Listen, we need a COVID backup, which means we need a COVID practice player just in case something should happen to one of our 3 quarterbacks. Yeah. That's literally what happened, people. All right, Goes there. Allen out.
Smith out.
Haskins released. Haskins out. Suddenly you are the starting quarterback for the Washington football team.
Yeah.
Oh, and by the way, your opponent is a surging Tom Brady goat on his new team that he's determined to go to the Super Bowl with.
Yeah.
Nothing less you can tell that he's not playing for anything less. Just go out there and have fun. Not only did he perform, he's making NFL plays, tears his AC joint in his shoulder on a touchdown run. I don't know if you knew that.
Yeah.
Continues to play, goes and gets a shot. Their 5th string quarterback almost got in the game during that, by the way.
Yes, yeah.
All right. Got a shot in his shoulder, comes back, finishes the game. They lose, but wow, did he put on a display and a story. Speaking as a coach now.
They'll make a movie of this.
They probably should. All right.
Yeah.
Speaking as a coach now. All right. Stop crowning him as the starter of the Washington football team. He has now earned a tryout for sure. He's probably earned a roster spot.
I was going to say he's earned a roster spot.
He has earned. This is it. He has earned the opportunity to fight for the job.
Yeah.
That's where we're at. I mean, I don't know how many examples we've had to see of quarterbacks in that position kind of get thrown into the starting role and it just doesn't work out.
Right.
Okay, I'm not taking anything away from Heineke. I'm saying that logistically, you have some very capable quarterbacks on that team, very experienced quarterbacks. You can't just ignore Smith, all right, or Allen.
Yeah.
And again, what he has given Washington is an asset. And what I mean by asset is now you have a very high worth tradable player in really technically all 3 of those quarterbacks, not Smith so much, but like you have some tradable assets now because that potentially could be 3 starting quarterbacks.
Yeah.
All right. In the NFL, that's a gold. All right. And it might be worth, I don't know if they have trading rights to Heineke or not, or if he's just an offseason acquisition, but it might be worth shopping him around a little bit. Right. Yeah. Hey, you saw the magic of this guy. I am not going to name multiple quarterbacks that have been in that position, shown to the top, rise to the top, and then they put him in a starting position. Nick Foles is one of them. Yeah. All right. And it just doesn't work out. Mm-hmm. Nick Foles, by the way, the greatest backup quarterback in the history of the NFL.
Right.
Just felt like I needed to say that for some reason. Anyway, look, it was an amazing game.
I always can make an argument for Jeff Hostetler. But
you could, but it's Nick Foles. So anyway, no, I'm just joking aside. It was a great game. It was a fun story to watch. You had to turn it on at the end to see what was going to happen. But at the same time, I do want to talk about the other side of the ball. And Tom Brady and the Bucs move on to play New Orleans, which is a hilarious battle of 2 40-plus 40-year-old plus
yes, the
quarterbacks.
old men, yeah, the old
All right,
men.
which they're making fun of him on. But, man, look, Tom Brady was awesome. Now, this is something, too. This was Tom Brady's first wild card game ever, which I found that to be funny.
No, it's not his first wild card ever, because they were in the wild card game last year when they lost to Tennessee.
First super wild card game ever.
Super wild, yeah.
Right.
There you go.
All right, see, I'm never wrong. I'm never wrong unless I am. No, but here's the deal: is that this is what I want to take away from that game. I was watching the final 10 minutes of that game, and I saw Super Bowl Tom Brady. All right, when there was even a chance that Washington might come back.
Yeah,
he got on the field, and he did exactly what he's done for years at the same level he did it. In fact, I remember thinking, wow, Washington has a chance. And then the announcers reminded me correctly, like, well, you don't want Tom Brady to have the ball with 2 minutes left. And they were right. They were absolutely right. I remember, I'm sorry to keep referencing this. It's actually not intentional. I remember in the Super Bowl, Ray, which you were with me with in 2018 with the Eagles, everyone was going nuts like the Eagles won. And you remember me sitting on the couch like, Tom Brady has the ball with 2 minutes left. Yeah. Granted, he can only tie the game, to be fair.
Right.
But I was like, this is not over. And he almost did.
Yeah.
All right? He almost did. So I'm just saying that dude wants to win the Super Bowl, and that team could get there. Now, his age will play a factor in the sense of he's probably the healthiest person his age on the planet. But, it'll be interesting to see 3 games in if something starts to happen. Right. Keep in mind that he's got a team around him that has to perform too. But they believe. I mean, they looked good. Yeah. They looked good.
Well, and it's going to be interesting in a matchup against New Orleans because that is this is the third time the Saints are seeing the Bucs and the Bucs seeing them. The Saints won the first 2 matchups. It's very hard and very rare that a team can beat the same team 3 times in one season. I remember the Giants did it once against the Eagles on route to Super Bowl 35 before they lost to the Ravens. But that's the only.
That's a fair thing to bring up today. I brought the Eagles a lot. I'll let you have that one.
Yeah, so because we beat you twice in the regular season, then we beat you.
Alrighty then, there we go. We both beat Tom Brady in the Super Bowl.
That was when you guys were starting to rise. That was when Donovan McNabb was just starting to hit his prime.
We both beat Tom Brady in the Super Bowl.
Yes.
I think we should do official predictions this week, Ray. I think we should go through each matchup, and each one of us should give our prediction.
Yeah, that's fair. But first, I also want to mention the AFC games because this was
there's a whole.
I went 2-1 in the NFC. I went 1-2 in the AFC. The one upset I called was Titans over Ravens. I was wrong. Fun fact: these teams have now met 5 times in the playoffs, and now the road team has won every time. The Ravens 3 times, they were the road team. And the Titans, when they beat the Ravens twice, they were the road team. Right. So the Ravens won 20-13. Lamar Jackson had a great game running the ball. Not so much. He had an okay day throwing it, but mostly as a runner. And also, he ran so well that when the game was over, he ran off the field. No post-game handshakes for these 2 teams as they are. Again, it's not required in the NFL like in the NHL, but it is. There's really some for 2 teams not in the same division, but have met a lot in the last couple of years in the regular season, and now in the playoffs back-to-back years. Some real bad blood starting to brew between Baltimore and Tennessee. Tennessee, they couldn't get Henry going on the ground game. Tannehill did okay, but tried to do too much later on and forced some throws. That offense just never clicked. So Baltimore wins 20-13. Also, the game that I did get right in the AFC, but barely. Buffalo beats the Colts. Phillip Rivers, again, tries to mount a comeback, but just falls short. Josh Allen showed a little bit of his youth again as he made some bad mistakes late in the 4th quarter, including a 25-yard fumble that he was lucky to fall back on, because if the Colts picked that up, they probably win that game. But the Buffalo Bills get their first playoff win in 25 years, and then the Cleveland Browns get their first playoff win in 26 years as they knock off the Steelers.
Slapped him in the face hard.
It was Ben Roethlisberger had 5 turnovers in this game, and Cleveland still only won by 11, which shows you just had Pittsburgh's offense.
This is what I'll say too: is that I don't think Big Ben's going to retire, but this is one of those games where you have to contemplate your future. That's how bad that game was.
He really seemed to be on the bench as the clock hit 0. He just was sitting there by himself.
He's crying. It looks like I should say it might have been sweat, but it looked like he was crying.
Yeah, I mean,
I do want to say this, Ray. Before we get into these predictions with these matchups, I do want to say that we had said this actually a few weeks ago that the football gods have played this out as we requested, which was any team that's still in the playoffs right now, if they made the Super Bowl and won, I'd be okay with it. All right, some more deserving than others. Like I said, I don't think the Browns are going to be there, but if they
Right.
did, it would still work.
It'd be an amazing
By the
story.
way, the worst record in the playoffs right now is 10-6 with the Rams. All right.
Yeah.
So that says something to you that even in this game, barring a miracle, no offense to the Redskins, they had no right to be in this round, even though they had a great game. No right to be there, right? The teams that shouldn't be there are not there, and that's a good thing. That's a good thing in my mind. Every game coming up, I want to watch. Every game. I didn't want to watch every game last week. I'm not going to lie to you.
No, it's true. It's true. I mean, and the Browns again. I mean, the Browns also had something to play for. Their coach had COVID. They were down. They were down to their third left guard, their backup right tackle, and sometimes a team, as you know, Lee, you have these moments that will galvanize the team, and you'll rise to the occasion because you're playing for the guy next to you as much as you're playing for yourself.
And every one of these teams has something to prove, and that's what I like about every single team in the playoffs right now has something to prove, right? Yeah, and in a strong way. And again, I'm not trying to negate some of the other teams that didn't make it, but like I said, we got great matchups here. We got great football here leading up to the Super Bowl, and from here on out, it should be good.
And I also need, again, Baker Mayfield said in the post-game interview, it was hysterical. He's like, yeah, the guy who was playing guard, I met him this morning. He drove it 6 hours from Jersey. I had no, again, a practice squad guy that they had not, again, showing that they had played. Also, Lamar Jackson, I want to give credit for his post-game interview. Even though I didn't like that he ran off the field, when they kept trying to say, you versus Derrick Henry, he's like, no, this was Ravens versus Titans. Okay, this was my team versus their team. Henry's a great running back, probably the best running back in the football. By the way, I'm a quarterback. I don't play running back, so stop trying to he got really in the media's face, and I actually really appreciated that he did that because it was the right answer, and I think he deserves a little bit of that chip on his shoulder. And watch out for guys with chips on their shoulder, as now Baltimore heads up to Buffalo for the divisional round. Let's get into our predictions. Lee, Bills versus Ravens. What do you think?
I'm going to pick the Ravens, and the reason why is the Ravens horribly lost in the playoffs last year on a team that could have gone to the Super Bowl. I have to believe that their drive now is going to overtake the Bills, who also have a similar drive, but with their first time in the playoffs in so long, they're going to have to really overplay to beat a Ravens team. Even though it's on the road for the Ravens, I think they win that game. I think it's going to be a one-touchdown game, though.
I think it's going to be very close as well. And as much as I hate to say it, I want Buffalo to win because I love the story.
I do too.
I'm rooting for Buffalo, but I'm with you. I actually think Baltimore is going to take this. I think they have the experience. Again, Jackson has a huge chip on his shoulder. Right. I think that both teams, I think they match up very, very well, but I think this is going to be a field goal game, actually. And honestly, the Ravens have the best kicker in the NFL in Justin Tucker, and I think it's gonna be close. I think it's gonna be a 3-point game, and I think Baltimore pulls it out to head to the winner of Kansas City Cleveland. And I'm gonna go first, and I'm gonna say, as much as a great story as it was for Cleveland to beat Pittsburgh, I think that Kansas City, led by Mahomes, even with a bye week, even with not playing Week 17, I think they're gonna be rested. I think I could see a quick start for Cleveland, but Kansas City is a second-half team anyway. I think the Chiefs roll. I think they win by 10. I think it's going to be now, as much as I would love to see Buffalo versus Kansas City, I think the more I think about it, I think it's going to be Baltimore heading to Kansas City in the AFC Championship.
Right. I have the exact same prediction, so I won't bore everybody. I'll just say, to echo what you said, I think the Browns will come out pretty fired up in that, but I think Kansas City's just going to slap them in the face. And I think originally I was thinking, that'll be a close game, and I don't think it will be. I think that Kansas City will come from behind and then get ahead by a few scores to win that game.
Yeah, I think it's going to be very similar to what we saw from their MO last year, which is, again, slow start, and then they're going to put the foot on the gas. And I just don't
too much experience, well-rested. Mahomes over Baker Mayfield right now is not an unfair thing to say. So I think that's probably the easiest pick.
We don't know who's going to be coming back from COVID for Cleveland. Cleveland, again, they had their two best corners were on the COVID list this week against Pittsburgh, which also could be part of the reason why Pittsburgh was able to still put up 37. But if they don't have those guys back for this game against Kansas City, Mahomes is going to tear them apart, and it's going to be worse than I even
Here's what I will say, Ray, is that if the Browns somehow do pull through, I mean, they're instantly a Super Bowl contender. There's no rhyme about it, right? But they won't.
No, I think you're going to see Baltimore again head down to Kansas City, and I think that I think that's what's going to be. So those are our picks. Again, I am rooting for Buffalo. I have no horse. I don't really care about Chiefs or Browns, whoever wins that game.
You don't hold water for either team. Yep.
Yeah. In the NFC, we mentioned this earlier, the Rams, the LA Rams in nice, beautiful, sunny SoCal are heading to the frozen tundra of Lambeau Field. Rodgers has been playing with a chip on his shoulder all year, again, after they drafted the quarterback last year. He has been proving why he's making an MVP case. I don't think he'll win the MVP. I think he'll be top 3, but Aaron Rodgers and also an underrated Green Bay defense against the Rams. I think this is going to be a low-scoring game, but I think that Aaron Rodgers is going to be at some point similar to kind of what New Orleans did to Chicago. They're going to wear them down. They'll put up a couple of late touchdowns as the Rams defense gets gassed in the second half. I can see this being a low-scoring game. I can see it being like a 21-10 kind of game. I just don't think the Rams put up any points. The Rams offense reminds me of the Giants offense at this point. I mean, again, remember they had a pick 6 against Seattle. That's part of the reason why they put up 30. If the defense does not score, and again, Aaron Rodgers does not turn the ball over that often, so I don't see it happening. I think Green Bay wins by 2 scores. They win by 10 or 11. I think Green Bay beats the Rams.
Yeah, this is the one where I wanted to pick an underdog. I want to pick LA, and it's not because I don't like Green Bay. There's just too much working against them. This is one where the weather really is going to play into the game. Yeah. And Aaron Rodgers is not losing at home. So it might sound like the safe pick, but I'm going with Green Bay in this one. Green Bay this year kind of quietly just succeeding.
At 12-4, yeah.
Right. Like they haven't had too many 13-3, right? I want to say, but
maybe either way, yeah.
I'm not trying to call you out. I'm just saying. So, look, the deal is this: they've been very quiet this year in terms of their success. They haven't been at the front of any newspapers or any coverage, right? I just can't see them losing. I can't see them losing.
Yeah, and you were right. The Packers were 13-3. My apologies there. So,
well, it's okay. I didn't want. You know what? I didn't want someone else to call you out on it.
No, you're right.
That's how I feel about it.
The Saints and the Seahawks were 12-4. Right. And speaking of the Saints, they of course are welcoming Tampa Bay and Tom Brady to New Orleans. Again, we mentioned this is the third time that these two teams are matching up. It happens very rarely that a team can knock off a team 3 times in one season, but I am going to admit I do think people are sleeping on the Saints defense. Right. And the Saints have a top 5 defense. And I get that Tom Brady is clicking on all cylinders, but I don't think the rest of the offense is. His receivers, it still seems like they're still not quite in sync with Tom. Even after a season of playing, there was some blown cover, some missed routes on against Washington, and I think the Saints will take more advantage of that than Washington could. And again, also, even I think Breeze and their offense isn't clicking on all cylinders either, but they're starting to get into a rhythm. They started to find that again in the second half against Chicago. Kamara's starting to get back into form. He had 100 yards rushing, I believe, against them. And also, he's a great receiver. Thomas, just getting back from injury, he's starting to really come back on for the Saints. I think the Saints win a close one and pull off the rare feat of beating a team 3 times in 1 year. I think the Saints win by 1 score and beat Tampa Bay. Lee, what are your thoughts?
I'm going to disagree with you on this one, Ray. I think the Bucs are going to win that game. Tom Brady looks to be in great form, and although while New Orleans is playing strong, there's that injury to his ribs, and I think that's going to play into it. And I think that the Bucs defense are going to be coming for him every time, I don't bet against Tom Brady. I don't even when he's on the Bucs. It doesn't mean I don't want Drew Brees to win a game because he's obviously going to retire after the season. But
he's pretty much done.
This isn't one of those games where I'm going to pick the Bucs. Doesn't mean I don't want New Orleans to win though.
Yeah, no, for sure. It's gonna be interesting. Obviously I'm rooting for New Orleans. So we're pretty much in lockstep here, except for with Saints Bucs.
Yeah.
So
which means one of us will be right and one of us won't.
Yeah. Pretty
Tune
much.
in next week to see that.
At least in that game, and all the other ones, we could. So we're either gonna go. We could go 0-4 or 1-3.
That's true.
So we'll see what happens. Again, I went 3-3 in my first week of picks. Again, I have Twitter for prosperity. There we go. Football.
Pasta, delicious.
I had pasta the other night. Anyway,
I'm having it tonight.
Last story for football, very briefly. We've been talking about Tom Brady. Of course, he goes hand in hand with Bill Belichick. We mentioned Belichick earlier. This is an interesting story. Again, this is probably the only time we're going to really talk about what happened last week. Again, the terrible, disgusting acts that happened down in the Capitol on Wednesday the 6th. The domestic terrorist acts, honestly.
Agreed.
the mob, because in the fallout of that, the wake of that, Bill Belichek has decided to turn down the Medal of Freedom that was offered to him by the president, and that's a big deal in my mind. The fact that Bill Belichick would, who honestly I think actually, typically we look at a lot of guys, but I think Belichick could be worth that, could get a Medal of Freedom. But I think
for what?
Well, I mean,
because that's if I'm thinking like Bill Belichick, and again, it's an honor, and I think most people take that honor because the President of the United States is offering the honor, and there's nothing wrong with that. All right, like when Ellen won with Obama, she deserved it. She does a lot to make people better, and then Ellen had to go through a whole trial of tribulations with that. Mm-hmm. I don't know what Bill Belichick, and I think Bill Belichick's thinking this way. What has he done to earn the Presidential Medal of Freedom? What? Yeah. I bet you he's at home like, what do I deserve this for? You know how many people deserve that?
No,
so it's a marketing ploy. Let's be completely honest about it. It's a marketing ploy. It makes no sense.
That's true. I mean, I guess other athletes and stuff have won it, but obviously they've done a lot more than Belichick has
This
done.
isn't a knock on Belichick. It's just, what has he done to deserve he's won a lot of Super Bowls? What has he done to win that?
I mean, I think the thing is that unfortunately, not just this administration, I think that the bar for the Presidential Medal of Freedom has actually kind of been declining the past 7 or 8 years, I would say.
Right. Can anybody tell me that's listening to the show? This is not a knock in any way on Bill Belichick, who is the greatest coach in NFL history. But what has he done to deserve a Presidential Medal of Freedom? It's a curious choice, and I actually think that he knows that, and that's why he turned it down. In addition to the fact that he wants nothing to do with what's going on in the White House.
He's definitely obviously protesting what happened last week, rightfully so. Yeah. And but again, I mean, it's like I said, I think the past 2 administrations have kind of lowered the standard for the Presidential Medal of Freedom. Unfortunately,
yeah, it's not. It's like, give it to celebrities. Like, what are we doing, guys? It's not a marketing ploy. It's a high honor.
Yeah,
it's the highest civilian honor, actually. Yeah. There are so many people that deserve it. Who's the person that came up with the COVID vaccine? Where's he? Where's his or her? Yeah. Where's their Presidential Medal of Freedoms? Right. All of the scientists. Where's that?
Yeah. Well, and again, unfortunately, like you said, unfortunately, even this has become politicized now to the point where
this isn't limited
ridiculous.
To Trump. This isn't limited to just one president.
Like I said, it's been honestly to me the past couple of administrations.
I agree with you. That's what I'm trying to say. I agree with you. Like, what are we doing here? You know how many people deserve to get these things? We ignore the standard for the country will raise when we raise it.
Yeah. You remember when the government had standards? Neither
do
I. Neither do I.
Right? No.
Yeah, no. But anyway, so that's our last football story. So I think Belichick did the right thing here. And it just sad we had to even mention it, but it is a big deal in the news.
And the last thing. No, I said, but we want to know what you think. Not really. But anyway, go ahead, Ray. On that one.
Really quick, last story. A little bit of baseball, some big trades, some big offseason stuff. Liam Hendriks probably going to go to the White Sox, help solidify their bullpen. The Yankees continue to do nothing in the offseason, which is driving me freaking nuts. Cashman, why did you trade Jay Buhner? Cashman didn't do that. But anyway, it looks like DJ LeMahieu now might go to the Cardinals. I've heard that as a front runner, and that kind of makes me sick because I know that George Steinbrenner's rolling over in his grave. Whereas the Mets are making the biggest splash in offseason news for baseball as they trade Ahmed Rosario and 3 prospects for Francisco Lindor and Carlos Carrasco. In my opinion, this immediately makes the Mets a contender for the East again. You get yourself a reliable, solid starter, who is also a great story as he bounced back from cancer, and he made a great comeback last year. And then, of course, Lindor, who, even though it's only a 1 year, he's got only 1 year left in his contract, especially if the Mets re-sign him, this is one of the most dynamic shortstops in baseball. He's a switch hitter. He can hit for power, hit for average, he has speed, and obviously a great fielder. And obviously, as much as I like Rosario, I think is a good player, Lindor is a great player. And this is going to the Mets. I mean, I'm sure this will mess up. Something will happen in typical Mets fashion. But at least you give credit where it's due. Their new ownership said they were going to go all in and try and turn this team around immediately. And it looks like that's what they're doing. So I can't believe I'm saying this, but good on the Mets. Good for you.
as a sports person, it is always good to see teams make moves that better them. As a Phillies fan, I don't like this at all, and I hope that the Phillies destroy them in what will definitely be a redemption year in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania.
Yeah, there you go.
For
Go
every
Phillies
team that we
and
have.
go Yankees.
Not just the Phillies. All 4 of our teams are in redemption years, if you really think about it.
Yeah.
The Eagles next year are going to be in redemption year, a honeymoon phase. The Sixers under Doc Rivers are the best team in the East right now.
They're doing
kicking
fantastic.
ass,
Yeah.
right? The Flyers are very much on a redemption tour after, dominating the playoffs last year, then losing.
Yeah.
And then there's the Phillies, who have arguably one of the best players in baseball and didn't even make the playoffs last year.
Well,
Man,
they got to
the
fix.
fanatic.
You guys got to fix your bullpen. You got to re-sign Real Muto, and fix your bullpen. I think you'll be
Agreed.
fine.
I'm tired. Redemption.
Yeah, and also just quickly on basketball, the Knicks suck again. We all know we suck again. As the Knicks have lost 3 in a row, they're now 5-6. Anyway, as you mentioned, your 76ers. Moving on now to our mashup.
I can mention my teams. Mashup time. It's time for the mashup.
Yes, time for the mashup. This
didn't do
one
the whole
comes to you
song. I
from
didn't do the whole
Lee
song
Elias.
Shocker there.
Yeah.
That's a tease.
I come up with some of them sometimes.
Do you though?
Once in a while. I would say you come up with 90% of them. 90% of them are yours.
95.
Okay, 90. We'll say 92. We'll say
Listen,
92 and a half.
You host the whole show. I can have a little bit. Jeez.
Okay, all right. This week's mashup is, we talked earlier about, of course, the comeback of Lucasfilm Games. We want to know what sports game would you like to see Lucasfilm Games make? Could they make a sports game, and would you be interested in it? Lee, what are your thoughts? You kick us off.
Yeah, so obviously my first thoughts on this was, I'll go childish with it. Yes, hockey players with lightsabers and running around and blasters and stuff, and stormtroopers versus the Empire versus the Rebels. And then I came to my senses a bit. I was like, that's too easy, right? It's too easy. I was like, what does LucasArts, Lucas Games, Lucasfilm, whatever they're calling themselves, what do they do better than anyone else? And what they've always done better than everybody else is their storytelling. It's taking their characters and doing really good storytelling. So we have seen each league do some storytelling in their games over the last 5 years, and every one of them has been average to crap. Right? even the NHL's version of this year was crap.
Oh God!
I mean, the
Pro
idea
is awful.
Yeah, the idea that a GM or a coach would be texting a player the way that those conversations go is not only unrealistic, but actually is, to me, part of the problem. That you're teaching kids, like, well, if you don't score a goal tonight, you're done. Like, that doesn't ever happen in the pro leagues, at least not the way that they're portraying it in the game. So I'd like to see Lucasfilm Games. Okay, yeah. I'd like to see them develop a story mode for one of the sports franchises. I actually don't even care which one it is. I mean, I'd like to see them develop something that really is something that you can sink your teeth into and follow a actual career. I think that would be actually really fun to do. Although really hard to do, but I would love to see them take a chance at. That's what I want. I want to see Lucasfilm Games. Sorry, I keep going that mess. LFG take on probably the NFL, to be honest with you, if I had to pick one.
Yeah.
The NFL be a player mode and make it great.
That's actually a great idea. That is true, to do a true a sports RPG. We've had story modes before.
It's never happened really to the level that has been somewhat realistic. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, I mean, some Blitz the League and Blitz League 2 was always fun, but that was so ridiculous and over the top.
Yeah,
but
exactly.
I think that would be a great idea. I was just gonna say Star Wars baseball, but
I mean, I would love that too. I mean, and again, not to make it look. I've loved Mario baseball. Like a lot of fun. Obviously, we talked about Super Blood Hockey. I mean, there's a lot of fun games out there. I just want to take a little bit of a different approach. I would totally play Star Wars baseball though. That would be amazing.
Yeah, no, for sure. And also for them to bring back Star Wars Racer. Do a new Star Wars Racer game.
Right. Cool. That's technically a sports game that you're thinking about it. But we want to know what you think. So comment below and let us know which sports game would you like to see LucasArts. Let us know what George Lucas and his gaming company that's also in film could make so that you would want to play it. Obviously, comment below. And make sure that you watch us on streamlounge.io on Fridays at 8 p.m. when we do Wandavision and any Wednesday night hockey games we may or may not be doing in the future. For Lee, I'm Ray. This has been another episode of Geeks Who Like Sports. And Ray, you should probably close it out because I'm not good at that right now.
You can do it, but you're not Ray. I'm Ray.
So for the listeners, Ray had a confused look on his face, which was really actually my goal. So it's mission accomplished for me on episode 91. Again, love being in the 90s. Love being in the 90s. It was a great decade.
Yes.
1991 was an interesting year. We had a war, which we won in like 90 days.
Yep.
Got Nirvana. Metallica released the Black Album. It was a pretty good year from what I remember. I was still under 10 at that time, but it was a good time. 91.
It was a good time. It was a good time. I remember, yeah. Anyway, Forley, I am Ray.
Reminisce about sports. No, I'm just kidding. Go
yes,
ahead.
as always, feel free to follow us wherever you can find us on Facebook. I think I'm messing up my camera now, or maybe it's just...
No, you're fine. You're fine. You turn it a little bit. I'll do it.
Yeah, thank you all for tuning in. We really appreciate it as I wear my new blade shades with my New York Ranger, New York Pro Series there. Bladeshades.com. But yeah, no, thank you everybody for tuning in as always. Forley, I am Ray. Be sure to follow us wherever you can. Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Geeks Who Like Sports or Geeks Who Like SP1. Of course, also like Lee said, streamlounge.io. Just it's on Google Chrome. It's an extension. And it's free to sign up. It's absolutely fantastic. Watch WandaVision with us this Friday, and then stay tuned for hockey with us the next couple of weeks. That's gonna be a lot of fun as well. But until then, we will see you next week for episode 92 of Geeks Who Like Sports. And until then, thank you all for watching. We really appreciate it. Enjoy the beginning of hockey season. We'll see you next time here in Geeks Who Like Sports.